always bothered me why Kentucky was guarding Grant Hill. Like, why do you, I mean, that's what he's going to do. Like, why are you guarding him? Why didn't you have 5-on-4 down there? Because Christian Laettner is the best player in college basketball that year, and you should have two guys around him because it's easier to stop that ball as it floats through the air as opposed to Grant Hill throwing it over you. Always has bothered me. Much like Caden Boozer, what are you doing passing that ball? 10 seconds wasn't a problem. That was the exact amount of time that was left in the game. Just let them foul you.
Right.
And even
just stop and get a tie ball or whatever.
Even if it had been 10.1 seconds, that 0.1 seconds, fine. Just take it and hold the ball. Didn't have to do that. So that reminded me of Chris Webber and his timeout, where you have this ridiculous brain lock that happens to you right at the wrong time. And those kind of combine to have that. And something else happened the other day that never happens before. Most of America felt sad for Duke.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, but like at least for a minute, for a second. I think they maybe felt sad for Caden Boozer. Because you feel bad for the player. You maybe don't feel bad for the institution, but yeah, that was heartbreaking. And I don't have any feelings of positivity towards Dan Hurley or towards Duke or whatever. They just are to me. So I was just bummed for poor Caden Boozer.
Well, we'll get into that game a little bit more and some of the historical, statistical anomaly. Where do you put that shot, Craig, compared to Laettner, which seems like is probably the most famous of all time?
I didn't really think about it in comparison to anything else. I just treated it as its own remarkable play that I didn't feel the need to just automatically go and like, well, compared to this thing, it's like you see a big thing. Oh, but compared to that Barry Bonds home run, we are a ranking society, especially in sports. But I'm really not that kind of a dude. So I just watched it and I was in awe and I was completely in shock in some ways, like I think a lot of people were, that was even feasible and even something that could have happened, because it sure seemed like that game was as dead and as over as anything could possibly be. And it was all over but the fat lady singing. And then, a mental mistake leads to an improbable sequence that leads to an improbable outcome. And just an unbelievable ending to an unbelievable game. And, a finish that we will be talking about for a really long time. I mean, we'll see. If UConn wins a couple more games, then certainly that will be a part of their bigger story. But, regardless of what happens now, I mean, that play is going to be shown for forever and ever. But it isn't going to be quite what it could be if UConn doesn't finish the deal for them. But still, it was incredible. And for a tournament that has lacked a lot of those types of moments, I think it was in desperate need of something like that. And I think everybody had sort of the same reaction when that was over, which was, this is March. Not that John Rothstein throws it out 1,000 times over every little close thing, but no, this was the March that everybody talks about. Like, this was the iconic, you're going to see this 10, 20, 30 years down the line for the rest of your lives, every March type of play. And so, just an unbelievable finish for UConn and a really good Final Four that I know we'll talk about. But that I was about to flip the channel because I didn't want to sit there and just watch free throws to close out the game. Like, it was over. And for some reason I didn't. And I was just like, oh, I'll just, few seconds left. I'll just watch this play out. And I just sat in stunned silence. I could not believe it.
Yeah, it was stunning. I was like, okay, this is getting a little bit dicey. And then Duke separated by enough, couple of 3 possessions. And then, you don't have to throw the ball. Although had Booster been able to get the ball over Mullins' head, then it's an easy, it's over because the ball goes into the front court and it's over. So here are the 4 teams. There you go. Michigan and UConn at the top row. And then, of course, Illinois. What a great story for them, the Fighting Illini. And then Arizona from the Big 12. They won the regular season. They won the postseason tournament. And they have been amazing in a collision course with Michigan. So those are the 4 teams. These are bangers. There's a couple other bangers that didn't make it here, like, for example, Duke or whoever else. Those are 4 alphas, and all of them are playing great at this particular time.
If Arizona and Michigan is not in the 80s on Saturday, my concern is that there's a flood in the arena and they had to leave. because both those teams can score so much.
But they also are both just so damn physical.
They are, but, the other day, Arizona and Michigan's games kind of ran on similar tracks, is where Arizona had a slow start in the first half, come into the second half and then just put on this barrage of scoring to where it was just over in 10 minutes. You could feel the last 10 minutes of the game, it was totally over. Then in the Michigan game on Saturday against Tennessee, it was 16-15. And then for the rest of the game, Michigan outscored them like 80-30 or something like that.
I use the word obliterated.
It was like they went in like, hey, coach, it's like something sputter in the engine here. It's like, oh, hold on, let me change out a spark plug here. And then all of a sudden they just took off, and there was nothing that Tennessee could do. They just kept making shots. They were so dominant. Every single player had some sort of contribution to it. Tennessee, who is a really, really, really good team, had no answer to any of it. And I think that's the game I'm looking forward to the most out of any game that's happened in this whole tournament. And maybe the one I'll look forward to more than whoever wins it versus whoever wins against UConn and Illinois, because I do think this one's going to be a super fun one.
Well, I think that it's a great foursome for basketball fans. I mean, big brands, a lot of history, a lot of basketball craziness between the four. They love their hoops in each one of these places. So some great stories. Certainly no Cinderella, not even close to that, but at least the UConn outcome over Duke, while not a Cinderella moment, provided us with a bit of a shakeup in what was otherwise just a complete ass whooping of Elite Eight games. I mean, it was blowout after blowout after blowout. And then here came Duke and UConn to kind of save the weekend as far as keeping the game close and giving you some thrills down the stretch. But yeah, it was a complete obliteration in most of these games. And I don't know quite what to expect with UConn and Illinois and Arizona, Michigan. I've already seen our buddy Jason Shear getting caught up in the talk about this game early on. And it's going to be a nice, fun build-up to see what it was all going to look like next weekend. But, I think the TV partners are certainly happy. They got four massive schools, four big basketball brands. I think the hoops heads out there are happy because there's four really good teams with NBA prospects, but just good college teams as well. And I think these four teams have proven themselves along the way to be deserving of their spots. Nothing fluky about any one of their journeys here. So it's not all ones, but we got a matchup of ones with Arizona, Michigan, and then the other matchups of 2 and 3. So some of the best teams in the country coming in are going to be vying for the title, and looking forward to it.
Here is what UConn overcame, which is staggering, especially when you're talking about beating Duke. But Duke has had a big problem holding on to leads. In fact, their last 4 losses a year ago to now, have been double-digit leads at one particular time or another. UConn's chances were 1.7% of coming back late in the first half. UConn's chances were 1.7% when Boozer had a layup, and that was with about 2 or 3 minutes left in the half. 1.7%, historically amazing. Then on top of that, they also, if you look at it, in that game against Duke, it was 134-0, number one seed with any kind of a lead of 15 points or more, had never blown a lead. It's one of those, Craig, you go like, how do they know that? 134 consecutive games, the number one seed, led by 15 points or more at halftime. They'd never lost until the one yesterday.
That was bonkers. I mean, to have that kind of collapse for Duke, because that's what it is. North Carolina had the exact same stretch there in the first round where they blew a 19-point lead as well to get eliminated. So Tobacco Road all feeling some different kind of pain because of this NCAA tournament. And that 1.7% chance, that's basically saying unless one of the Duke players commits a completely brain-locked turnover, this game is over. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, and they did, yeah.
Not only that, just credit, when you watch how fast it happened, it was less than 10 seconds, so they bring it up the court, that's a couple seconds. He throws the pass, it gets tipped around and intercepted. And then there's a couple passes on the other end before the shot gets made, which was from about 33 feet.
Yeah,
which is even more. Yeah.
Caravan could have easily panicked and thrown up just a shot, but he went to the guy who was facing the bucket, Craig, who drills it like he's a damn good shooter, although UConn was 1 of 18 at one point from shooting threes.
It was, like you said, something that needed to kind of a miracle to happen. And Braylon Mullen is the name you should be saying since he was the big hero yesterday. Caravan did help make that play, but Braylon Mullen, the big star of the night with the shot there at the end. So I think his name should be said quite loud today, and certainly will be said for years to come in UConn lore and in March Madness discussions moving forward, especially if UConn goes and finishes the deal. But yeah, they had no control of that outcome. They could go and try to make a play, but even still trapping Boozer, he's still got to be the one to make the decision. I mean, you could have hoped to get your hand out and blocked it or whatever, but if he just hangs onto the ball, you have no control over that. And so they gave UConn a little bit of daylight, made the mental error, and the rest is history. And I feel for Boozer. I saw him in the post game. He took it on his shoulders, and I'm sure his teammates are telling him not to do that, because I saw quite a bit Duke mentioning in their post game of, well, they should have played better earlier on in the game, and they could have done more at points in the first half or earlier in the second half. So they're going to protect him as they should, as their teammate. He's a big part of the reason why they got here. His brother obviously is a major part of the reason why they got there. So they can help comfort one another, but it's going to probably be really tough for Caden Boozer for a long time to have to live with something like that. So good thing he'll have a nice support system around him. But yeah, if he has better awareness, which you can chalk up to him, he should have had that, or you can say, well, John Schreier should have drilled that into their heads, which I know a lot of people have done in the last 24 hours, which is also true. But I guess you're thinking about 1,000 things, and that's the last thing you're thinking about is, well, they're going to try to force something and get it picked off, and then they're going to throw up a three and hit the three, and then we're going to be out of time. Like I get, yeah, Schreier now knowing that will move forward and never ever get in a situation where he doesn't bring up that scenario. But he didn't bring it up last night, and they did the one thing they couldn't do, which was make a mental error, and it cost them dearly. So That's going to be something that they live with for a really long time.
Just a lob a little higher. Even if the ball's not tipped and it hits it's over. But it didn't work out that way. Brian Jeffries, by the way, voice of Arizona, will join us later in the hour on Arizona. The tip times for the games on Saturday evening. First game will be Illinois and UConn with a 5:09 Central start. And then Michigan and Arizona, a couple of 1 seeds. That game will follow. Ian Eagle, Bill Rafferty went nuts yesterday in that UConn finish. Grant Hill, Tracy Wolfson, Gene Steratore with the rules and much more. That's the setup. TBS, TNT, and True TV. Those are the tip times and the 2 Final Four games going on.
I was so discouraged at the end of the first half about watching a good game that's when I went outside to grill the chicken we ate for dinner. Like, I didn't watch the last 4 minutes of the first half and halftime, because I was like, yeah, Amanda just says, hey, when do you want to start it? And I was like, we've got everything out. I might as well just go do it now. I went outside, we start, and then by the time dinner's ready, it starts, and then it was like, oh, well, UConn.
That chicken got cold, didn't it? Yeah.
I ate my dinner and moved on. But yeah, I remember thinking both these games are going to be so lame. Great. Golly. Oh, bummer. And then now that didn't happen.
5th time that Arizona has made it to the Final Four. First time since 2001. They were a wrecking machine too. Arizona, the Final Four, as I mentioned, Brian Jeffries will join us momentarily in the later part of this hour. Here's a couple of notes that I jotted these down. Someone said Arizona is like AI. They gather data, modifies their game plan, and then they become deadly. That was actually Jim Jackson, yeah. Ohio State, former Ohio State star. And then Arizona just took down 4 conference champions on their way to the Final Four, and with utter dominance. And what Tommy Lloyd and his team and a bunch of 3 freshmen that look like they're physically and mentally like they're 22 or 23 as they rout everybody in their path to get to the Final Four. Big 12 with a huge team in addition to that group.
They desperately needed that. I mean, to get shut out of the Final Four, I think would have been a big embarrassment for the league, given all the crowing about being the best throughout the regular season, which I agree with that. But you also have to factor in that it doesn't really matter much if you're regular season kings if you don't make much noise in the postseason. So thankfully, Arizona stepping up and throwing their weight around, and boy, have they. They've been excellent. A lot of fun, and yeah, just an absolute machine this weekend. So not a surprise that they're here. I picked them to go all the way, although the rest of my Final Four is kind of flaky, I think, at this point. But I think Arizona and Michigan is going to be an absolute battle of the Titans, and an incredible basketball atmosphere and matchup. And I've already seen some of the chatter, and that's just going to build all week. But yeah, that's a game I'm very much looking forward to. Tommy Lloyd's done an excellent job. I know he's been thrown around as far as a name for the North Carolina job. I see a lot of speculation going back and forth about that. And I know that in football, we see it all the time. The bigger school going after the guy from the smaller school. The smaller school says, well, we've invested so much and his wife really loves it here. And he just seems like he's really going to be loyal. And then the guy leaves.
Yeah.
I think when you're talking about North Carolina and Arizona, that's not one of those situations. Arizona is maybe not right eye to eye, but they are not far off. They're like a half inch below at worst. I mean, North Carolina is a very proud, excellent basketball program, but let's not for a second pretend like we're comparing Michigan football to, like, with all due respect, Iowa State football as far as accomplishments go. I mean, Arizona, with him at the helm, has every right to believe they're going to go win it this year and win it for many, many more years to come. So I hope that doesn't become a distraction. It certainly wasn't this past weekend, but I know it's not something people are going to let go as long as that job's open. But he's done an excellent job there, and I hope he's around for a long time, because I do feel like they can continue to take this thing higher and higher, regardless of how this year turns out. It's been excellent, and they looked really good this weekend.
They opened the game. I'm sorry, Paul. They opened the season. They beat Florida.
Yeah.
A defending champion.
I think the good news for Arizona fans and for Tommy Lloyd is where his agents might be, sitting around and taking those calls about North Carolina or whatever it is. I don't think North Carolina is to the point where they're focused on him as the candidate yet. He's probably a candidate, but I do think Billy Donovan, especially given the way that Billy Donovan answered the question last week when he was asked about it, he didn't say no. I mean, a lot of times you're like, oh, I'm in the NBA. I'm not going to North Carolina. I'm not going to do that. He didn't say no, and he didn't say no kind of emphatically. He, just said, well, my focus on the Bulls right now. And that to me sounds like, yeah, I'm absolutely going to consider North Carolina, because really it's probably a better job than the Bulls is right now. So I think once they get past the guys like Billy Donovan, then they get to the guys like Tommy Lloyd. But I agree with you, Craig. I don't really think that, it's an apples to oranges comparison when you talk about Arizona's resources when it comes to basketball in North Carolina. So I think that it's about the same. When you have the 3 freshmen that they've had to pay for in the starting lineup alone, before you even get to the veteran players, how much that costs, you clearly have some investment when you can go out and get a Braden Burries and a Koa Pete, and then make sure that Jaden Bradley stays and make sure that all those other guys stay. So you've got that commitment from the university on the NIL side of it. So I'm not sure what North Carolina can do to overwhelm what Arizona's doing right now. And why would you leave if you're already there?
Yeah, I think
it's not a Lane Kiffin thing.
The tournament has also pushed back North Carolina and how they're going to go about their business to see, now again, there's only 4 teams left. So if somebody's done, then they can talk to them. But I think they're going to maybe put the brakes on this thing. They were maybe hoping to have something quicker, but that's not the case.
Well, I only bring that up because I saw some of that speculation over the weekend, and I just feel like Arizona's in such a good spot with him that I think they are in their own right very much a team that can at times talk about being one of the best basketball schools or being in that blue blood stratosphere to some degree. And so I know that speculation is going to continue, and he might not be their first, second, or their third choice, but he's going to at least be mentioned because he's a coach in the Final Four with a team alive, and he's just really good at what he does. So my whole thing with that is, yeah, I know there's speculation out there about him, but I think he's got one of the best jobs in America. He's doing one of the best jobs in America, and I really look forward to seeing what else he can continue to build up there. Yeah. First Final Four in a quarter of a century is pretty surprising. I wouldn't have guessed that just off the top of my head. I would have thought maybe I'm missing a year in like 2013 or something where they made a Final Four, but to be there for the first time in that long, I'm just really happy for people like I mentioned, Jason Shear and the Arizona fans out there. It's been a great story. They got an awesome team, but they're going to have their work cut out for them against Michigan, man. That's going to be going. I mean, here we are to the nitty gritty, and whoever emerges from whichever path, if it's UConn beating Illinois and then beating Michigan, or it's Arizona beating Michigan and then beating UConn, it's going to be a very worthy champion and a great Final Four. Hopefully a lot more competitive than most of what we saw this week.
Whoever wins will be an alpha. And one more thing about Arizona. They opened up with a win against Florida, defending champions. They also won at UConn, beat UCLA in LA, beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, won the Big 12 regular season by 2 games, and then, of course, beat Iowa State and Houston on their way to the conference tournament title. They are what you think they are, and so is Michigan, Illinois, and then, of course, UConn. Illinois, Brad Underwood. What a story this is. Here is Brad Underwood, lifelong veteran coach who started out in junior college at Dodge City in Kansas. Here is Brad Underwood on what it means to get to the Final Four.
Never doubted, and I don't want to sound arrogant, I've never doubted us getting to a Final Four would happen. I thought we've had other teams capable, but I also know how doggone hard it is to do it. And for that, I just say thank you. I say thank you to everybody involved, and I'm going to get emotional, but it's I've been doing this 39 years, and you dream about this as a kid, and I dreamt about doing it at Illinois back in the day when my wife bought Tyler, who was maybe 2, a Brian Cook jersey, and you knew what a special place this was, and it always has been, and there's been no other thing for me. This is my dream job, and it's very fulfilling to get where we're going.
First Final Four for the Illini since 2005. Lost 1 conference game in 3 years, was 5-1 at SFA, winning 3 straight Southland Conference titles. 1 year at Oklahoma State. I understand he wasn't there long enough for Cowboys fans. At 20-13, Illinois opened up. And they are now 2 teams in the Big Ten in the Final Four, guys. They had 4 teams in the Elite 8. Michigan wins big. Illinois with a huge win after beating Houston. And Brad Underwood is right there on the doorstep.
I'm glad for him, a guy who I enjoy. I know that Oklahoma State fans are not fans, and nor should they be. But I think really enjoyed his sort of JUCO to big boy basketball journey that he's touched on quite a bit, and gives me an appreciation for him over the guys that sort of just were born on first base, maybe, if that makes any sense. Of just there's like that Willie Fritz factor with him, as opposed to the guy who graduated immediately, was a GA at Georgia, then went to Florida for like 2 years and like came back and that whole sort of a deal. These dudes had to grind in a different manner, and I think you can get it done both ways. But I just have a little bit more of a liking for guys with his type of a story, because I do think it's a bit more of a difficult road, and I do think they have a different type of appreciation. I won't say they appreciate it more. I think they have a different type of appreciation for the accomplishments and the road it takes to get there. But yeah, it's a great story. He's been around a really long time, and I don't think any of his peers are necessarily all that surprised, but it's a great story. The only drawback about Illinois is that you're basically rooting for the EuroLeague All-Stars. The Itches, as I like to call them. It's Sitch and Vitch, and they're really good. They're really, really good. And they were nasty this weekend. I mean, they're big and physical and just tough, man.
Experienced.
They're tough. Yeah. So yeah, they're going to be a really, really hard out for somebody, but I'm happy for Brad Underwood. And I think that the Big Ten has every right to crow a little bit. Now, they could have had a bit more, but I think you'll take 2 out of 4, give yourself a 50% chance at winning a national championship. And then the Big 12, at least you got Arizona in there. I think it would have been disastrous to have nobody. And the SEC, I mean, my God, all these bids and nobody in the Final Four. I think that's got to be a massive disappointment, given that you had such a favorable draw as far as the number of teams go. So to have 0 there in the Final Four is something I'm sure Greg Sankey's not too happy about. And then the Big East, it's their time of year. It's their time of year to wave their flag. So UConn's helping them do that. So yeah, it's the Big Ten's 2 against the Big 12 and the Big East, if you want to look at it that way. But it's a great Final Four, taking away the conference affiliation, just 4 really good basketball programs.
I think the warm and fuzzies that come from Brad Underwood are, and I don't know this to be true about anybody else, but the coach you said was born on third base. Well, it's John Shire. I mean, he played for Duke and he came back and he coached for Coach K. I know there were a couple
he wasn't at Tyler Junior College for 3 years.
Yeah, there were a couple other things on the way, but I promise you that he's never had to mop the floor. Brad Underwood's had to mop the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Brad Underwood's had to. Yeah. Mike Krzyzewski
probably drive the damn bus.
The game, turn around and do the laundry when they get back to the facility.
John Shire has never had to meet with the uniform salesman. A representative from Nike comes in, slaps him on the back and says, hey, or whoever they are. I believe they're Nike, but I'll just say it's Nike. Comes in from Nike, treats him like a king, and shows him a couple things, and he goes, oh, I like that. Good work, guys. Brad Underwood had to meet with a uniform salesman out of Kansas City or East Texas or wherever he was, to try to.
I bet he was talking to our good friend Cecil Roach, the late Cecil Roach at Massey and Brown Sporting Goods.
Like, hey, I need sneakers. As where at Duke, they're like, hey, we're running low on sneakers. And Nike's like, oh, we've got a truck headed your way.
Yeah.
And that's just different. And so he's coached. He does have that Willie Fritz or Kurt Signetti vibe when it comes to it, because he's coached at all these levels in college basketball. So he kind of gives you the warm and fuzzy. Dan Hurley's from one of the basketball families, the Hurleys. John Shire, again, is Duke royalty. And Dusty May, though. Dusty May's come up through.
Yep.
He was at Florida Atlantic and then now at Michigan. So, yeah, he's already been to 2 Final Fours. Dusty May, and he looks like he's 19 years old sometimes when I look at him. If you don't look at his hair, which is a little bit gray, he does look like it's his first day on the job, but it's certainly not because of the way that they play.
2 years, look what he's done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could kind of see rock star in him when he was doing well down in the tip of Florida. One of the things about Underwood and wet blankets, an Oklahoma State fan, and coaches do this, that Oklahoma State was his dream job. When he got that job after doing phenomenal at Stephen F. Austin, and then Illinois was his dream job. And I'm sure Will Wade today said the same thing about going back to LSU as his dream job. We'll get to that later. But Illinois, 2 Big Ten, man, they have been really good across the board with football. Now what they're doing with men's basketball too.
Well, it helps when you have about $40 million more than most other teams to work with. I think that has to be at least mentioned, that it certainly doesn't hurt. Now you could say, well, the SEC's got similar and they haven't won quite as much, but I mean, they did win it last year with Florida, and they are on a 3-year drought as far as the football championship goes. So that advantage not quite working as much as they would like it to, and nor as much as it's working for the Big Ten right now. But yeah, the Big Ten has every right to, if you want to do the conference bragging rights thing, they have more reason than anybody this calendar year to puff their chest out and crow about it. Now, it's not going to make a damn bit of difference if neither Illinois or Michigan doesn't win the title, though. So if Arizona beats both of them, then I don't think any of us will be sitting around going, remember the time the Big Ten had 2 of the Final Four in 2026? No, we won't care. Yeah. We'll say, remember when Arizona beat both the Big Ten teams to win a national title, or whatever the outcome ends up being. So yeah, they've had great representation throughout this tourney, but the job's not done. And all we'll care about at the end is whoever raises that flag for their respective program and university. And then we'll get to whatever banner that is as far as the conferences go. But the Big Ten has represented well. I think especially, like I said, in comparison to the SEC, when you had so many teams, to have nobody playing on the final weekend. I think if you're Greg Sankey, that's obviously not what you were hoping for or probably expecting, but yeah, it ought to be interesting. And I think with the whole thing about Brad Underwood is, yeah, like I said a few moments ago, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, I don't expect you to like Brad Underwood. I wouldn't if I was an Oklahoma State fan. He's just one of 1,000 examples of kind of saying one thing and doing the other. And you just mentioned a guy who's an example from like 4 days ago, who I think knows he's lying like much of our politicians and just lies. And the people who want to eat it up. And then the others who call it out don't really have anything that they can do about it. We just have to sit there and fingers crossed, hope he fails at LSU or something like that for those who are hoping for such a thing. But for Brad Underwood, yeah, he's not 100% popularity because of decisions like the one in Stillwater. But I also don't want to take away from John Shire and the job that he's done. It's just that I do have a little bit of a soft spot for Underwood's story and how he's come up, and Dusty May as well, of just the JUCO buses and doing your own laundry and those types of things. That's just cool to see a guy who you could go back to and take like a camera and say, if you could just go back and look at anything, say, let's go back to like 2013. Where is he? And what bus between Athens, Texas, and freaking Waco is he
in
on?
Pasadena down to play Stan Jack. Yeah.
Getting value meals at McDonald's for the team, and then going back and doing laundry, like I said, afterwards. And now here he is, and he's in the Final Four to play for national championship. I just think that's really cool.
It's really cool. 62 years old from McPherson, Kansas, heartbed of course, basketball. Couple of notes here, then, Paul, what you have, and then we're going to show you the standings in the bracket madness.
Just on Arizona, just on Brad Underwood. Just so
okay,
yeah. On Brad Underwood, when Brad Underwood was in JUCO compared to now, like an assistant coach leaves and gets another job at Illinois, he just goes, "Hey, we got to hire another assistant coach," and he calls a few people and he interviews them and moves on. At a junior college, when you lose an assistant coach, there is a really good chance that you walk in and they're like 6 months from now, you can hire him when the budget comes around, but you're going to have to do the whole off season alone.
Yeah. No.
And
I mean, and I love the fact that he climbed the ladder, then he got the break, and then he took advantage of it, did well at SFA, was a phenomenal coach there, gave them their greatest run ever. And then of course, Oklahoma State for a year, and now Illinois. Or Arizona's first appearance in the Final Four since 2001, Illinois 05. Michigan 18, UConn, of course. My God, they had to wait 2 years to get back to it after winning back-to-back national titles.
I looked Brett Underwood actually was at K-State, or no, he was just going to South Carolina in 2013. I threw a random year out there.
I bet Frank Martin probably attached to that.
Probably,
with him.
He's only there for a very short time, 2012, 2013, but that's where he actually would have been. It would have been more like the early 90s when he would have been traveling around on the JUCO bus, and then some of the 2000s as well. But Dusty May is an excellent coach. I mean, that was a hell of a hire by Michigan. He did an awesome job at FAU. Obviously, was a hot name, and that one paid off tremendously. Underwood, obviously, a long journey to get to where he is, but a cool story. And then on the other side of things, I mean, UConn and Hurley are back at it, back here where they've been very, very much around the scene compared to everybody else. I mean, they're no new faces to this whole ordeal. So I think they'll come in very confident and riding more momentum than everybody based on their finish. And Hurley is a polarizing guy, to say the least. I think you love him or you hate him, and there's not really a lot of in between there. But there's some good coaches in this Final Four that are going to make this very interesting.
Did you see the video of him rubbing his forehead against an official after a shot was made? Which and Roger Ayers, I think, who he can be a little bit temperamental. Should that
have been a tech? Should that have been a tech?
It depends. You go players jumping off the bench for 2 or 3 feet, but
I think they screwed themselves in the earlier rounds when they didn't call any of that crap. Like, you can't turn around and call it now. Yeah, the Texas game, the very first game we're all watching, and they're like jumping on the court and they're not calling anything. The Texas assistant's getting railed by
his own coach,
Coach Sean Miller. And so, I think they kind of set themselves up to where you can't call that now, 2 weekends later in a moment like this. But the head rubbing on the official, that was, I don't know, man.
It was like kind of a little psycho, which we know he is. Here is where you stand as far as the 365 Sports Bracket Madness, and then we'll hear from Brian Jeffries, voice of Arizona Athletics. David Loveroot he's been running the table. He has look at the lead he's got. Now, Michigan, again, is the team he has. Among everybody else down below him, Zach Gelb does too, who does a show before us, but he can't catch David. So David Loveroot, then you have Garrett, who has Houston, so he's basically all but done. I'm right after that. Paxton's made a move. Then you have Sargent, Epperly, Gelb and Rosini, which sounds like a law firm, Paul.
And Rosini's cooked too.
Yeah. And then Jim Schumacher, Craig, you have Arizona, but where did you, and we got to get to a break and come back with Brian Jeffries. Did you have a slip up or two that kind of knocked you down a little bit?
I mean, I guess so. It's somewhere at some point. I mean, I had Iowa State in the Final Four, so that certainly didn't help me. And I'm not a basketball fan really anyway, so I didn't expect to do all that well, but I did hang around long enough to get my hopes up, only for them to be crushed at the very end, right? Like, I was like, oh, I'm actually doing pretty well in this. Like, maybe I'm onto something. And then I went and checked last night, and I was like, oh, my God, I dropped dramatically. So I'm about now where I thought I actually would be compared to where I was the first couple of weekends. But, yeah, my Final Four, I think, is pretty decimated. Iowa State was the one I know for sure, but I can't remember the other ones. I do have Arizona winning it, but so do a lot of people.
A bunch of them, as you saw there, with Arizona winning it all. Loveroot and also Zach Gelb with Michigan. When we come back, he's the voice of Arizona athletics. Brian Jeffries joined us about 3 or 4 weeks ago. They won the Big 12 regular season, postseason tournament, now in the Final Four for the first time in 25 years. Brian Jeffries next on 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be. Are you feeling a little bit less energetic? Are you a little bit lethargic compared to where you were maybe even 2 to 5 years ago? Are you in your upper 30s or maybe 40s? Your low T, your testosterone level may have dropped. 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have symptomatic issues of low T, and maybe that's you. Contact Dr. Kent Petty at pettycliniclowt.com. Tell him I sent you. They will set you up with an appointment to get your blood work. He will get the results, check your T level, and if it is too low, give you an option to increase it at pettycliniclowt.com.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
You have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf car batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a T-fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
We're celebrating the Declaration of Deals at Allen Samuels in Waco. Right now, get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. Cash in on $11,000 off a new Ram 2500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or choose 0% for 36 months, plus no payments for 90 days. Feel secure with America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Yeah, floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Well, the 3 o'clock hour continues, and we're joined by the voice of Arizona Athletics. Brian Jeffries joins us on 365 Sports, and the Wildcats back in the Final Four since 2001 and on a heater, no doubt about it. And Brian Jeffries joins us on the show. Brian, thank you very much for your time. Is it hard to imagine, as good as Arizona basketball has been, that it's been 25 years since their last Final Four appearance?
Well, you'd probably have to ask the fan base that. When you've been to the tournament year in and year out, for me, it didn't seem like it was that long ago. I don't know why, but I have great memories of Indianapolis, of course, and we've been back there since for I think a Sweet 16 game and maybe a regular season game. But yeah, it's for real. So here we go.
Brian, the first half was one of the least Arizona halves I think maybe you could say they've played all year. And the second half was maybe one of the most Arizona halves they've played all year. Is it the confidence that allowed that to get turned on just so easily after the half?
It's hard to say. It's not the first time I think I've seen that this year. In fact, we were just talking in the office this morning. Arizona played, well, you guys remember this, Baylor. Mm-hmm. And Wildcats had beaten Houston a few days before that at Houston, of course. That was a very emotional win because the Wildcats were shorthanded in that game. And they got to Waco, and I didn't think they played very well in the first half. I'll give Baylor a lot of credit. They came out and were red hot. But then Arizona got it turned around in the second half. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, boy, Tommy Lloyd had this great halftime speech and all these adjustments. I think these guys are experienced enough and they've played well together for so long that they just have a mindset that if they stay with, or as Tommy says, stay steady, stay with their game plan and what they worked on all season long, that they'll be okay. And so, yeah, confidence, I think, has a lot to do with it, that, you never feel out of the ball game. And the game against Purdue, I mean, that's a big stage. Everybody knew what was on the line right there. And so I'll give the Arizona players a lot of credit for not letting that interfere with their mindset, that they just went out and played their best in the second half. They did make some adjustments and got the win.
Brian, does it feel like it's been 25 years since you last called a Final Four Arizona game? And did you think at the time that it would take 25 years to call another Arizona Final Four game?
All right, so I got to take you back to Arizona's first Final Four in 1988, okay? That was my first year doing play-by-play, and Arizona gets its first ever trip to the Final Four. It was in Kansas City, and I did not buy a single souvenir while I was there.
Okay.
Thinking, of course, that we'll be back next year, so I'll pick up some stuff then, okay? Being naive enough to realize you don't make it every year. So 25 years ago, yes, I stocked up on Final Four merchandise, some for myself, most of it for my friends. And so when I think back on it, yeah, it has been 25 years. It's been a very fast 25 years in my mind. And again, I just think it's the success of the program over the years where you don't think of it as much. You get reminded of it when the season ends. If you come up short, Arizona had a couple of painful Elite Eight losses here in the last decade. And it's you get that close and you feel it a little more, but at the same time, like I said, time flies.
This Arizona team has these freshmen, especially the three that get all the attention. But you always hear that by the second semester that a freshman's pretty much almost a sophomore. But the freshmen that Arizona and Tommy Lloyd seems to have, Brian, they seem like they're 22, 23 years old, like grown blank men. And experienced, and like nothing seems to rattle them. When did that click? Was that even before they flipped into conference play, or was it a certain time during the year?
Well, let's take each one individually and start with Koa Pete, who did not look like a freshman when he stepped on campus. Keep in mind, he won 4 state championships at Perry High School up in Chandler, just outside of Phoenix. And so I think that he was conditioned to start right away. Of course, he had all the accolades. And so you kind of knew from the outset he was ready to go. Ivan Karchenkov, was born in Moscow, grew up in Berlin. And he was of the three, and along with Braden Burries, was the least known, of course, because he was a European guy, international player. But growing up, and really, I think he started playing basketball earlier, but when he was about 15, he started playing against men, not boys, men. And so that allowed his growth to accelerate there in terms of just being physical on the court. And he talks about that all the time, that he didn't play against guys his age. A lot of it, I think, because of his advanced skill. So he was prepared at that point. Braden Burries started this season looking like a freshman and just had some freshman games early on. Arizona played Alabama in Birmingham, and that's when that was his coming out party. And he actually led the team to the victory. He had just an incredible second half. And so each of those guys, I think, has had a different path. I will go back to, really before the season started, Tommy Lloyd had already determined a starting lineup, and those three guys were in it. And he determined that because he knew they were talented enough. And he knew if this team was going to be as good as he thought it could be, they had to play early, and they had to play a lot. So he had them penciled into the starting lineup, along with Mo Krivas and, of course, Jaden Bradley. And it paid off with those three guys being able to play a lot of basketball early on in the season. And yeah, they had some ups and downs individually, but the fact that it was that same starting five through almost the entire season, I think that allowed, again, the chemistry, the cohesiveness of this team to continue to grow to get to where they are.
Brian, one of the things I think that all four of these teams have in common on their rosters is they can play matchups really well, in that, that they've got a lot of height. I mean, just putting in Krivas alone, allows them to match up with anybody when it comes to, you've got a big lanky center, which they're going to have to do on Saturday against Michigan. You can put a 3-guard or 4-guard lineup out there. You can put, more of the rebounders on the floor. So Tommy Lloyd has so much freedom to do a lot of things. How have you seen that grow throughout the year with the lineup matchups that he does play in game and the chess moves he can make because of that?
Yeah, I think, the Arizona's designed as an inside team, and that's why they get to the free throw line a lot. They have tremendous points in the paint throughout the season, is because of that front line, and he wants to take advantage of that. And I think you're right. I mean, the interior of all four of these teams in Indianapolis do match up very well, and Arizona, Michigan probably in particular. What Tommy's able to do is, you've got Tobe Awaka coming off the bench, and he primarily plays the 5 spot. He's 6'8", but he's incredibly strong and just has a great knack to rebound. He's the leading rebounder on the team, even though he doesn't start. And then you've got Anthony Del Orso, who last year was their best 3-point shooter, hasn't quite hit that stride this year, but still he's very dangerous from outside, and he can play. If they want to go to a 3-guard lineup, he can fill in there. And then Dwayne Aristode, who's the 4th freshman, who's the number 8 man on the team. Believe it or not, even though he doesn't get a lot of minutes, might have the prettiest shot on the team when you watch it come off his hands. And so that versatility has allowed Tommy to use different lineups, but he obviously likes the starting 5 that he has, and their ability. And I think to get back to what they do paint wise, and it's just not in the inside. Jaden Bradley and Braden Burries have a tremendous ability to penetrate and get to the rim, and that helps their numbers inside. But I'll mention one other thing, guys, and that is that, and I've heard this for years, that guard play is the most important thing when you get into the NCAA tournament. And Arizona's championship team in '97 had Miles Simon and Mike Bibby, and that's, to me, that was the reason they won it all that year. And that's why I think when we get now to Indianapolis, guard play, because you mentioned that the interior size of all 4 of these teams might be equal, it might come down to the guard play, who's going to win it.
Well, thanks, Brian, and thanks for your time, and enjoy the week. I know you will, and the trip to Indianapolis, and hope you get there all the way into Monday night and win it all. The shot by Jaden Bradley to beat Iowa State, in which was a phenomenal game, of course, in the tournament. How much of that was satisfying, not just because of the win, the clutch moment, but there were some chatter about the player of the year in the Big 12, which of course the coaches are a part of that vote, and not a couple of other names. How satisfying was that for him?
Well, Jaden's a pretty humble guy, and all you have to do is look at his number. He averages 13 points a game, so it does jump off the paper at you. A tremendous assist to turnover ratio. He can shoot 3-pointers, but he is a team guy, and that's what it's been all about for him. He's not looking for points. If they need him to score, he can score. But I was really happy that he was honored by the coaches. It tells me that the coaches really pay attention. They're not just looking at a stat sheet and saying, okay, well, who's the top scorers in the league or whatever. They're taking a look at what guys actually do for their team. And sometimes it goes beyond the stat sheet. And so I'm very happy for Jaden, obviously, and I just admire what the coaches did, how much they looked at Arizona as a team and what Jaden Bradley does for them. That got to that shot. And, speaking of that shot, great example again, I think, of, the confidence that Tommy Lloyd has in Jaden and his team. Because if you go back and look at the video, when Jaden's bringing the ball up court, he looked over at Tommy, I think, but Tommy didn't even look at him. It was just like, what to do. The guy's played, almost 150 college basketball games now. And, it wasn't necessarily like the play for Jaden to make that shot, but it was the best option, and he's not afraid to take it.
When I have voted in the past, Brian, for things, I'll try to contact the coaches that I know and ask them, okay, who is the biggest headache for you? And to me, when Jaden Bradley won Player of the Year, that's what that said to me, is that when they sat down in this league, which has nothing but headaches, Advil could sponsor it. Nothing but headaches. They said, of all the guys we play, this dude is the toughest one that we have to deal with.
I think that's a great point. That's a great analogy that probably went into their voting. And, yeah, do you want to face Jaden Bradley night in and night out? Because not only offensively can he get you, he can also get you defensively and just his leadership, his headiness on the court, just his IQ playing basketball. I mean, he's kind of got the entire package there. And so without him, obviously Arizona wouldn't be where they are right now. And Tommy just put so much trust in him and the team, and now you see the result of it. So I don't know if they're going to win on Saturday, but I tell you what, right now they pretty much every time you think maybe that they've met their match, they've been able to figure it out. So they've lost 2 games, and there's probably some reasons why they lost 2. If they were fully healthy for those 2 games, they might have won them all right now. Who knows?
Yeah, we have a term called bangers when it's 2 high-level teams. This is a banger coming up on Saturday. This is an alpha dogs going at it, size, strength, everything. And man, I can't wait for it. Hey, Brian, thank you for jumping on. I know it's a busy week. Enjoy the week, as I said. Enjoy Indianapolis, and good luck to the Wildcats and representing the Big 12, too. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Great to be with you.
Brian Jeffries, the voice of Arizona, the Wildcats, and Michigan Saturday evening in a semifinal game. All right, when we come back, we got some Nuggets football notes. One of them is kind of old, but in case we didn't touch on it enough, and then a couple of other notes in football, and we'll get back to some college basketball notes from things that are going on, some coaching news too. That and more. We'll have Chancellor Johnson from the Big 12 analyst will join us at 4:30, and former Utah Star and NFL quarterback Scott Mitchell, who's the color analyst for Utah, will join us today at 5. And this is 365 Sports. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, they continue to have incentives, discounts, and more. And, of course, a new month right around the corner. They want to finish out March with a bang. And right now, 2.9% financing for 72 months on the celebration of deals at Allen Samuels. 2026 Ram 1500 Lone Star, 2.9% financing for 72 months or 4.9% financing for 84 months. And either way, you will get a $5,250 rebate. Also, the payment, You work it out with them. They're there for you, and they will be there to test drive if that's what you want, the 2026 Ram 1500 Lone Star or all the great Ram trucks that are honored and have trophies after trophies of being a truck of the year throughout everything you could imagine. Then, of course, Jeep Grand Cherokee, Jeep Wagoneer, and then the sedans that they have too. Pre-owned inventory that's fantastic. It's Alan Samuels, general manager, CEO is Ted Teague. David Gray handles the entire sales department. Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Join the celebration. It's 27 years for Richard Car Motors, and we're celebrating with big anniversary savings.
Get a 2023 Rogue Buick Enclave for $301 per month, or get a 2022 Chevy Silverado for only $446 per month, or a 2023 Volkswagen Jetta for $236 per month. All pre-owned cars and trucks on the lot are tagged with big anniversary savings.
Thank you, Central Texas, for 27 years. Log on, call, or come by today to find big anniversary savings now.
At Richard Car, we give you more.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
One of the things about that game last night, one other quick note about basketball, that game that was so phenomenal was after 3 blowouts in the Elite Eight. So that kind of gave everybody that true feeling, a lift of March Madness too, because the other ones were just like destruction. Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's about how I felt. I just felt like it was a fun weekend to have some basketball on, but it wasn't necessarily all that entertaining unless you're one of those that is entertained by just dominance and you're impressed by the blowouts, which I was to a degree, but it's not what I was hoping for when I turned the TV on. Certainly, I would no dog in any of the fights other than, yeah, if I'm pulling for a team, I'm pulling for Arizona because I picked them to win it. So that's my choice to win the championship. I would like to be right on that. Also, I think it'd be huge for them for 25 years, as we were just talking about, since their last Final Four. Been a long time since they've won a natty. And then for their league, it would be a massive, massive deal to have a new national champion. But yeah, those games were not entertaining from a competitive standpoint for the most part. And then we got as thrilling of a conclusion as some say since Christian Laettner, although there's been other buzzer beaters and things over the years. That was an all-timer. I mean, that was an absolute all-timer. That's one of those that I'm sure I wasn't the only one that went back in slow mode and watched 50 times how that all actually came to pass. And could Caden Boozer have done something different? Yes, he very clearly could have. What else could have happened differently? Lots of different things. Obviously, you coach that differently the next time around if you're Duke, but it was an incredible moment, an incredible finish. And I think the tournament heads or just the basketball people who need the tournament or want the tournament to do well, I think they were more thankful than anybody about that finish, because instead of everybody rolling into today like they would have talking about, I think we need to decrease the tournament. There's 4 blowouts in the final. We got to cut the field down, guys, or we got to make it all SEC and Big Ten teams, or whatever the just stupid reasoning would have been.
Yeah, because what if that would have been UT Chattanooga had a Cinderella run and then played Michigan and lost by 35?
Well, UT Chattanooga is lucky to breathe air like us and lucky to be here kind of thing. But instead, we didn't have any of that. We just had 3 pretty mundane blowouts when all was said and done on the final scoreboard. And not to say like nothing was entertaining about those games, but just they weren't down to the wire. And this one was, and I think as fans of March Madness, we desperately needed that. There's been a severe lack of that. And I do wonder moving forward if an increase in tournament teams is going to lead to more of those moments or even fewer of those moments, and we just further water down the inevitable, or if having more of those types of teams leads to maybe having more Cinderella moments, unless those types of teams are just going to be teams from Auburn and Oklahoma. And so then from that standpoint, they aren't Cinderella either. So we had a severe lack of Cinderella in this tournament. UConn winning was not a Cinderella moment, but it added some much needed drama where otherwise there hasn't been a whole lot.
VCU might have been one of the first.
There's nothing that adding teams to this tournament can do to improve it. It is, it is Kobe beef ribeye. There's nothing you can't, like when you go in and you pay for that $300 steak or whatever you're going to have to do to have that, 16-ounce Kobe ribeye, which I may even be underestimating it. You don't go and say, hey, is there anything else you guys can do to this to make it better? It is what God made as the best steak that you can have. That's why that is. So to add anything to it is just for your own vanity and greed. And that's why it doesn't need to change. But I do know that all of us, which would be millions upon millions upon millions of people that love the tournament the way it is, nothing that we say matters.
No, nothing we say matters. And just be prepared for the TV rating discussion that's going to come. And I know as somebody who's brought up TV ratings in the past, I think I'm done with that for the most part, like on Off the Radar. I'll do it again during football season. I'll maybe mention it occasionally, but the ratings are just so out of whack that anytime over the last several months you hear it's the best rating since 2004, it's the best rating since 2015. The numbers are juiced right now, guys. Like they are very much juiced. So if you don't have higher numbers, then that would be a reason to actually have some concern about the game, because you go, well, why is everything on TV pretty much up, especially live sports, and we're not? So all these numbers we've been getting as of late they're legit, but they're kind of manufactured that way because it's a different system that's rating games compared to even a year ago, much less 20, 25 years ago. So from that standpoint, I know that'll be up. Well, look, the ratings are higher than ever. We need to add more teams. It's so popular. It's like, well, by default, they're more popular than ever because the ratings have getting a steroid injection, basically, is what's happened. I don't know if it's more popular or not. There's other ways that I'm sure you can break that down. But if it's not that, there will be another reason of why we should do this. And I think this year has proven that, yes, it's just fine as is. We don't need 8 more teams in the first round trying to vie. And I'm not trying to gatekeep. I just know that those 8 teams aren't going to be Midwestern State and Wichita State and those schools. It's going to be Auburn. It's going to be South Carolina, or like I don't know the exact best. It's going to be those types of teams, and Texas Tech or whoever would need to get the nudge there to be a part of that pool of teams. It's not going to be Fairweather State that's here for the first time and just happy to be along for the ride, and they're going to play Cinderella like that. I don't think that's going to occur because you're adding more teams to the pool. So they are very lucky that UConn game added some drama, because otherwise I do think the conversation today would be, wow, that was a really boring weekend of basketball. Like, what do we got to, like, man, blowouts in the entire Elite Eight? Like, man, that's not good.
Chancellor Johnson will join us at the bottom of the hour. We'll ask him about the tournament, the growth, the expansion, or whatever, get his feedback. He'll join us at 4:30.
The only way expansion works is if it solves the problem of not having that Miami of Ohio debate. Should they have had to sit there and for 5 days sweat that they lost their conference tournament when that was their first loss of the season? That's the only thing that, if you expand the tournament to make sure that things like that don't happen, then that's the case. But that's not what they would be doing. So no, it's not solving that. It's it's not opening up opportunity. It's making a soft landing for teams that fail.
No, we know what it is.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
feeding pockets to those who already are getting fed more money than
Guys,
anybody
they have
else.
to pay the athletes now. They need the money. Come on, man. Give them a break.
And okay, so you just got to feel all of a sudden we're going to look up in 3 to 5 or 6 months. They're going to talk about expanding it and actually get it done, which I hope they don't. College football playoff, the committee with a facial with a little bit of a change. Look at the names now. Brian Maggard, the facial, like women get their facial.
Yeah, I know. There's a couple
You're
of different
dirty-minded
ways.
son of a gun,
I am.
Both
How about
of
a
you guys.
makeover?
Yeah.
They had a facial.
Yeah, I mean, you can keep
That's a
going here.
weird way
A
to say it,
pedicure,
but
a
sure.
manicure.
Yeah.
That's a weird way to say it.
Dr. Brian Maggard, the University of Louisiana. Jeff Tedford, former head coach at Cal, Fresno State. And Gus Malzahn, who most recently was at Florida State and, of course, was the head coach at UCF and elsewhere, Auburn. They have joined now to be a part of the playoff selection committee, and Hunter Yurachek of Arkansas remains as the chair headed into 2026.
I guess that's all fine. I don't know. We'll see. We're going to have the same debate about the committee, no matter who's on it.
Whoever's on it is not very popular.
Yeah, I'm not a huge believer in Hunter Yurachek, just because of the way that he is very publicly talked about. He wants to kind of reverse time on everything. So him being the spokesman doesn't make me all that thrilled. But again, it doesn't matter. I mean, the committee's going to do what the committee's going to do, and we kind of know what their tendencies are.
Disbanding this committee or preventing them from having the TV shows for weeks on end would be one of my first rules put in place as the commissioner of college football.
And I would
if
be
such
right
a
there
job
with you.
were to exist, I think it takes away from the sport. It gives you some fodder, things to talk about on a show the next day, argue with your buddy about where your ranking is with 4 weeks left to play or whatever. But I think it does more of a disservice and really creates more confusion and creates more of an avenue for people to think the system's rigged or to believe that it's not all fair across the board because of the way they do things. They open the door for that. And I know they don't care, but I just think from an enjoyment standpoint, it's not what's best for the game to have these TV specials weeks out from the national championship and the playoff being decided. But they're going to keep doing it because, like with the tournament we were just talking about, like with this tournament, like with all things college sports, the TV executives are the ones mostly making the decisions. So as far as the additions to the committee, I don't really have any opinions on whether they'll be good or bad additions. I think they're worthwhile. I think Gus Malzahn certainly makes sense with all of his experience over the years and his different stop-ins. I think he'll be a nice voice to have on there. Brian Maggard, I can't say that I know a lot about him, but as far as having some representation for the power schools. I think that's certainly a healthy thing and something that's much needed. And then Jeff Tedford, I think his resume speaks for itself, and he's a very valid guy to have on this committee as well. So I'm all for the former head coaches, so long as they're not rooted in one singular place, because I do think you could have some home cooking that enters into the fray. But I think Gus Malzahn and Jeff Tedford are very well-respected guys who have been around a long time and have been in a lot of different roles, and we'll have some interesting things to say.
I don't get the former players' involvement other than just names like Randall McDaniel. It doesn't mean he doesn't know and watch football, whatever. I just, I'm not so sure. I don't want all football coaches. The only thing is, can you trust them all to be unbiased?
I would like coaches. Players are valuable to me. I also think that there should be maybe a little bit more retired media presence, because I think that there are some people that you can say, hey, let's take a step back. I know that you guys think this, but sometimes you guys have only watched this certain thing for so long. Nick Saban should never be on the committee.
No,
he's SEC pilled. You can't put Nick Saban, as wise as he is, on the committee because he only watched certain things for so long.
I'd put it like you wouldn't have Feinbaum on the committee.
No, you wouldn't have Feinbaum on the committee. You have to have somebody.
It would be a 12-team SEC playoff, and not that those are the only guys like that. It'd be that same way for some dude from the Big Ten Network. Like, that guy doesn't need to be on the committee either, right? Somebody from the ACC Network doesn't need to be on the committee. So I'm fine with former head coaches, especially if they're coaches who have, like I said, been around. Like Gus Malzahn hasn't just been strictly in one spot. He's been around a little bit. Obviously, Orlando here somewhat recently, Tallahassee. So he's been in like 3 different conferences in the last several
what was
years.
his first job? Was it Arkansas State or something?
Well, and he was at Tulsa, right?
Yeah.
So he's at Tulsa, Arkansas
around.
State. He's been there. He's been in 3 of the 4 Power 4 conferences. The only one he hasn't been in is the Big Ten. And I think they're doing okay. They don't need an advocate.
Yeah.
But
so I think those guys are valuable, and I'm fine with all of these additions. I don't know about former players. I don't know necessarily what insight they would provide as far as ranking playoff teams go that would be all that different. But if they wanted to add some former players, that's fine. I don't think there's anything particular about being a former player that makes you any better at picking teams for a playoff.
Yeah.
It's not like when you're asking for Congress's approval on something and you're saying, well, what do the players think? Because they're the ones that are getting paid the money, and they're the ones that have the school schedules, and what are their thoughts on how their hours are managed and what would be best for the well-being of a student athlete. That's when I would like their opinion, but I don't think it's much different than a retired coaches or even the media members. And I don't think having a media member would necessarily be a bad thing, so long as it's not Peter Burns from the SEC Network, because that would just be the same thing we were talking about at the beginning. But sure, like Bruce Feldman on the committee or something like that. I think, sure, why not lean on his expertise? I mean, there's several people. It's not like one person's making the call, so I don't know why a media person who covers the entire sport would be a bad thing.
I think Feldman, Dan Wetzel, those kind of guys that you don't like. When I think of them, I don't think of an immediate lean towards anything.
Right.
Yeah.
no, I think the guys who have covered a bunch of schools, who know a bunch of coaches, whose credibility relies on them having honest relationships with the leaders of college football.
Like, I would love to see Wetzel in that room being
Yeah.
like, what are you guys doing? Like, because he critiques it like we do, but I do think that would be kind of valuable to have that outsider voice that's not plugged into the money machine that's pumping 24/7 to go like, well, wait a second. You guys are trying to add a 5th team from this league when they lost to someone. Like, I don't know how much that sort of outside voice gets into the brains of the same retired coaches / athletic directors who are all kind of from the same work line,
Maybe all from the same wavelength. So there's 6 at-large members, 6 sitting ADs, 6 at-large members, 4 former head coaches, 2 former players. And then there are others who, of course, are ADs, et cetera, involved. I mentioned Ivan Maisel. He was the one that got caught up. Remember the hate for Ivan Maisel on the book signing because Notre Dame didn't get in the playoff, and he wrote a book about Newt Rockne.
Well, see, that's the kind of guy you need.
Yeah.
Ivan Maisel.
I like that addition. Yeah.
He has the gravitas. He is seen enough, and he wasn't a one team. Like that's my problem with having, for the AP poll, of having one team beat writers in this thing now, because you don't really get to watch as much. when you are voting for it. You're watching on highlights and things like that, and you're kind of in your lane. I do think that when they come to a media poll, they need to have people who are able to watch more games.
Would you want to be an AP writer, a voter?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a commitment.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
It's not one of those. We don't have somebody that's going to fill it out for us. Craig, would you want to do that?
Yeah, I would do it. It would be an honor just to say that I did it. And I think I could do a pretty good job. I know I could do better than some people on that poll based on what we've seen in recent years. But yeah, Mike Maisel was a good example of a guy who was kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out of media at this point. But voices like that, like I very much respect Dan Wetzel's opinion on things, or Bruce Feldman. I don't think it should be like permanent media spot. We rotate every year. Now it's the dude from On 3 this year, and then it's the dude for I don't think we should do that. Yeah. But I do think if there's veteran, well-respected guys who have seen and done it all, I think their expertise and just the different chair that they've been sitting in versus an AD, a player, or a coach would be just a different voice that could be valuable. Doesn't mean they're going to sway things one way or the other, but it's an opinion that maybe is just an alternative to what the rest of the group is thinking. But I'm all for players being a part of it as well. And there are several players on the committee, like Randall McDaniel's on there, and
I would mention
various others. But it's valid additions. The ones being announced today, I think, and we'll see how that all goes. But it'll be the usual song and dance, at least at the beginning.
A couple of different football notes, and then we have Chancellor Johnson, a Big 12 basketball analyst, in just a little bit. This was last week, and it seemed like it's been going on forever, and it has. The Trinidad Chambliss, remember, he was eventually approved to be eligible for a 6th year. He was at Ferris State. He was cleared, and then the NCAA then appealed to the Mississippi Supreme Court, and they denied the NCAA, and he remains official, because that could have flipped, although I doubt it in the state of Mississippi when they're in Oxford.
I know that they had to, because you've got to exhaust all legal possibilities, but I do think that the NCAA is like, oh, listen, you guys are going to get like 200 more billable hours, so just go ahead and do it. And then they just sat there waiting for this to come down. That's all that was, because it was never going to change. And, you know, the appeals court having to hear it, considering some of the other appeals, I'm sure probably felt a little frivolous to them too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this seemed pretty inevitable based on the home cooking he got the last time around. It just felt like that was going to be the final decision. And so the NCAA threw their Hail Mary, and he's getting his wish that he got. Guess that was a couple of weeks ago when that last decision came out, or maybe a little while longer than that. But I'm torn on this. I don't know. I've talked about the Chandler Morris case. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form Chandler Morris deserves a 7th year of football. Like, nothing about his story is compelling to me to give him another year. And in fact, as I mentioned last week, it just opens Pandora's box to having every guy who wants to come back to college being able to say mental health. Now, they may not have it documented the way that he did, but I don't think they all had these coaches, non-official mental health experts that were also vouching for them. Like, he has a mental health coach apparently, or had a mental health coach. So I don't know how many people have that guy to begin with. This one's it's a little bit different, because there is the documentation and how that was handled, and how much of it is on Ferris State versus how much of it's on Trinidad Chambliss. And at the same time, it's like, why did we only hear this now after your highly successful year at Ole Miss, where of course you want to come back because you're going to make a huge payday? He was really likable to watch last year. Very fun player. I'm not saying I'm rooting against him, because I'm not rooting for any ill will, but I'm definitely not hoping they have as good of a year as last year in some ways, because it does just sort of feel, even if his case is valid, and again, it's just in the eye of the beholder, because you can look at it from different angles, and you can see on the one hand, well, he's got a point. Like, he had tonsillitis and he had all these health issues going on. On the other side, you go, but why do we hear about none of this until just now, when he needs this year to come back and make millions? So yeah, all I know is I don't think they're making the playoff again regardless. I'll just say that. I don't think Ole Miss is making the playoff, even with him back. I know that's the expectation, but I'm going to go ahead and stick my neck out there right now and say, I think this is all for him to come back and them to win some games, but to fall short of what we saw from them last year. He won't care, because he'll make a couple million or whatever it is that he's going to make. But I do feel like we're building this all up, and then Ole Miss is going to be like 8-4 next year or something, and we're going to be like, well, what the hell? But it's it's good for him. It's good for Ole Miss, and if I was an Ole Miss fan, I'd be over the moon.
I tell you what, when they lost that playoff game, I was like, damn it, I'm not going to be able to watch him play
I was
again.
too.
And now I'm okay with it. I just, for some reason, he got my attention.
I think
very exciting. I don't know if he could follow it up with a year like that or Ole Miss, as you mentioned, but I'm happy for him. And again, also worn out with these particular rulings.
I do think that everything that was going on with Ole Miss because of Lane Kiffin added to the attitude that they needed to have to do that. And you can't recreate that.
I agree.
You can't recreate that. Those are things that just happen. And you can, any great run that any team has been on in history, you can point to, we were prepared, we were ready, we were this, all of that. But there's always some kind of thing that happens in a season that turns out to be really good that no one can explain.
Yeah, it just may not work.
And or that you can't recreate. Well, this is what motivated us then. We thought we were a really good team. Our coach left us. He was a total douchebag about it. And we decided that we wanted to stick it to him. And that really pushed us through until we couldn't get there anymore. And we pushed all the way to the end. And it was really dramatic and all of that. But that fueled us. Well, Lane Kiffin can't leave them again. That's already happened. This is a new team with a new thing. So you can't rely on that to inspire you. You have to just wait for the next thing. And the team's just not quite as deep. Even though Trinidad Chambliss is coming back, it's not quite as deep as it was a year ago.
Quinshon Judkins will be back, and so those should be pretty good.
Quinshon Judkins in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Why did I think he was coming back? Maybe
he was
about
at
last
Ohio
year.
State.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of somebody else.
Is it Kejuan Lacey?
I'm thinking of Kejuan Lacey. That's what I'm thinking of.
Kejuan Lacey.
I knew I wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
You guys sometimes just don't give me enough credit for.
Well, you got to hit a shot every once in a while. So congratulations, you hit that shot. So yeah, kudos. Kejuan Lacey is who I was thinking of, but it's certainly, I'm not anti-Trinidad in this case. I think I'm more just anti all of these damn eligibility appeals and seeing I need a 7th year for my mental health could very well be valid. It's just I wonder what waits on the other side of that if all of a sudden that becomes fair game, because I just think that's going to get, we thought we saw appeals before. I think you really opened Pandora's box. So selfishly, as a fan who just wants some order, that's why I'm like, But look, will I be mad if Owen Heineke gets another year? Damn sure won't be.
So then on Chandler Morris, it's nothing against him personally.
Of course not. I
It's
don't know
about
him.
the system.
Yeah, I don't think that a guy who's been at 4 schools in 6 years and is now saying I need a 7th year, even though I've already redshirted, had a COVID year. Now I'm going back to 2022, and I'm giving you this mental health doctor that is not licensed, as far as I know, to be some expert that the NCAA should go, oh, well, Dr. Willikins said that this is just some dude that the family hired, and they hired him. And part of what he did was help Chandler Morris through a really rough patch when he got injured at TCU in 2022. And then he got replaced and completely replaced by Max Duggan, who would go on to finish runner-up in the Heisman and runner-up for the national championship. And now that's being cited as, well, his mental health was bad. Well, yeah, he lost his job and he was hurt and he couldn't get his job back. And the team went on a credible run. And then they went on to say, that's why within the program, we formed this plan where he got certain snaps, but not too many. And it was a self-imposed red shirt that wasn't official. But now we're saying that it should be. And I just find that all to be bullshit. So I just think that, yeah, in his case, look, really good player, really good end to his career, I believe, last year at Virginia. It is absolutely nothing against him. It's nothing against Virginia. I am pro player on all matters, first and foremost, to a degree until they cross the line to me. And they're using mental health to get a 7th year to go play at probably a 5th school, I just think is a bridge too far for me.
My thing about the mental health issues, that opens up, that can be something that everyone just starts to claim that. I'm not saying it wasn't serious.
Said, yeah.
By the way, there's a Dr. Milliken who's an anesthesiologist in Austin, a Dr. Milliken who is a kinesiologist, and there's also one that is a sports medicine doctor. So he might,
maybe I was onto something there. I just prescient and knowing.
Gastroenterology.
Well, maybe he could have claimed gas bubbles were causing him to not be able to play. That can happen, I guess.
Have you ever had, gas so bad that you maybe think that you're going crazy.
Sure,
yeah,
but
that could have been. But
my point is just that I think in Trinidad Chambliss' case, he had a valid argument if you read it. I know not everybody buys it. I know if he had an okay year, we're probably not talking about this, but he had an incredible year. I personally don't think Ole Miss is going to replicate that. But I know that it's great for them to have him back, and they have a much better chance of doing so with him as their quarterback. So as a just pure fan, I'm very excited to see Trinidad Chambliss playing again. As somebody who just wants this to all make some sense, I'm not over the moon about another appeal by yet another SEC school, because we've seen Joey Aguilar. We're seeing Owen Heineke. It's like we want rules, but we don't run rules. You know,
we have to break.
I think for Chandler Morris, the other thing it just hasn't really been discussed too much when it comes to it is they went on and got Eli Holstein and Bo Pribula to come in and compete for that job. Well, if Chandler Morris comes in there, I mean,
Virginia is very much saying, based on everything that I've seen, Tony Elliott was playing the whole "we'll cross that bridge when we get there" game, because there's no need for him to make a declarative statement right now. I'm willing to bet that they're fingers crossed he's not ready to come back. I'm almost more convinced that even if he does get cleared, that Virginia's going to be like, dude, we're sorry. Like, but we went and got 2 quarterbacks. I know they're not saying that yet, but I don't think it would be good for them to then go, all right, Bo, Eli, sorry.
Yeah, no, you can't
Here
do
comes
that. I don't
Chandler.
think you can do that. I think there'll be about 15 or 20 schools after spring that are looking for a quarterback because they're not real sure what they have. We got to take a break.
But hold on. Do you know what that would mean, though, if Virginia were to do that? School number 5, baby. School number 5 that he would have to transfer to.
If he has the eligibility, and if you're on a school and he's a quarterback, get him.
And that's part of why I'm not like in favor of this going his way.
All right. Here's a picture from one of our viewers, Robert Beekler, who was in Lincoln for their spring game. That's all I'm going to show you. The lowest crowd they've had since 2000, 27,000. Clemson's attendance was down 20,000 or so. People are confused on spring games. What do they mean? Some not even having spring games, but that was from Robert Beekler. Thank you for sending that to me. I wanted to use it because he's a viewer.
There's a lot of years where Nebraska claimed the best, most well-attended spring game and spring game sellouts and all that, and they did not have anywhere close to that this time around. They'll still have one of the most attended, if not the most attended spring game in the country.
Yeah,
I'm not going to keep track of that because it doesn't matter the way that it used to matter even a couple of years ago. That's still a very, very healthy crowd for a spring game, especially in 2026. So, no, we've seen the last of the 100,000 at the spring game, I think. But what'd you say, 30,000?
27 or so.
That's not bad. I mean, that's pretty damn good for
that's a nice chunk.
Glorified practice at this point in time.
Clemson down 20,000, and you wonder if that's also a trend as people are confused by what we're going to go watch the spring game, and 12 of them are going to be gone by the end of the week.
They've kind of closed the loophole on that, but it's just it doesn't matter as much. It's not on the part of the calendar where the coaches even want it. It's the whole pomp and circumstance and song and dance surrounding these big spring game weekends are more about fan experiences and not about red versus white or whatever like they used to be. They're more about like just come and hang out and have a good time. So I just think the whole culture around spring games is just different across the country. So yeah, the days of 75,000 in Lincoln on a March afternoon are probably over with.
Both groups of fans also have no idea to be optimistic or not.
That's
what the spring's about.
I think most of them were waiting in Houston for that game for the regional championship, but they forgot to come back. They're winning in basketball.
But the spring game's all about ridiculous optimism, and neither of those fan bases have any reason to have that.
Coaching changes. We will come back with Chancellor Johnson, his thoughts about the Final Four by the weekend. What was Duke doing? His thoughts. That's next. This is 365 Sports. QC Kinetics. Let me tell you, I want to help you out. How do I help you out? Because QC Kinetics absolutely helped me out. I had gone 4, maybe almost 5 years, since about COVID, where my right hip was aching. I couldn't jog. I couldn't jog 15 or 20 steps without just shutting it down. A little bit of that was mental too, but it just too much pain. So I have had steroid injections in my back to help maybe get rid of some of that gnarly gristle that creates problems in your legs or hip. And those injections would kick the can down the road and it would come back again. Then I heard a friend of mine talk about QC Kinetics in Dallas and Houston. You can see the numbers at the bottom of your screen. We'll get to them in a second. Aches and pains in your joint, you're tired of them. Are people starting to talk about surgery? Before you do that, contact and get a consultation, free consultation with QC Kinetics in Houston or Dallas. They utilize your own natural biologics, platelet-rich plasma, stem cells, and more. Your own healing process inside your body. They will take blood, spin it, put it back in you. It has helped me. I played 2 rounds of golf over the weekend. I ran another mile this morning. That's 4 miles in the last couple of 3 weeks after nothing for 4 to 5 years. Nothing like that. And it feels good. And there's no afterburner as far as, the next night, I don't feel very good. Hips, shoulders, ankles, knees, wrists, whatever is bothering you, you want to get one more look at it before surgery. QC Kinetics in Dallas, 972-972-8610. In Houston, 713-913-5285. QCkinetics.com.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, this is 365 Sports. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Eric Johnson, basketball analyst for the Big 12 Conference and more, joins us on 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak. Chancellor, thank you very much. Let's discuss the Arizona Wildcats. They just, we had their voice, Brian Jeffries, on earlier. Just a team that have they ever had any bad moments other than a couple of losses that were to two damn good teams?
What's going on, fellas? Thanks for having me on. Yeah, as far as Arizona goes, man, this is who they have been all season long. And you can go back to their opening night matchup against the reigning champs in the Florida Gators and how they beat them on a neutral floor to open up the season. Then they went on to LA and beat UCLA in Los Angeles. Then they beat Alabama in Alabama. Then they went to UConn, a team that is in the Final Four, and beat the Huskies in Stores. And they went to Houston and beat Houston in Houston. We're talking about just the level of dominance and consistency all year long for Tommy Lloyd and his team. And so that's why it's no surprise for me that the Arizona Wildcats made it to their first Final Four in 25 years. And I am super excited for the matchup on Saturday as they take on Michigan, another team that has been just as dominant and just as consistent all season long.
It is a little bit different. Dusty May's built his team mostly through the portal because it's only his second year. Now, they've got portal guys at Arizona too, but their lineup, I mean, it's three freshmen, all these guys that have been recruited out of high school, which is kind of rare now to see that in the Final Four, isn't it?
It certainly is. And as far as, Arizona goes, I think you look at the job that Tommy Lloyd has done building this roster out to where, you have your senior leadership in Jaden Bradley, who, look, you talk about all the great talent, the freshmen, in the Big 12, but who wins the Big 12 Player of the Year? It's Jaden Bradley, the senior, the guy who's been there before. Then you have Toby Awaka, another leader for the Arizona Wildcats, coming off the bench. And then you have their best talent being the freshmen, whether it's Braden Burries, who I think has played as well as any freshman in the country, Koa Pete, who has shown up in big games, whether it was in that season opener against Florida to what we saw in their Elite Eight matchup against Purdue, coming in with a lot of big moments for them. And then as well, Mo Krivas, who I think is one of the more underrated bigs in the country. I think that if you don't have a big who can bang with Krivas in the post, you don't have a chance. Luckily for Michigan, they certainly have one in Ade Mara, who is a guy who's also going to be in the NBA. But both Michigan and Arizona, both a great roster construction by their two head coaches.
Chancellor, you're a guy who covered the Big 12 pretty deep all year long. Your thoughts on having Arizona in the Final Four? They were your regular season champ. They were a tournament champ. This is how you would have booked it, but just your feel on kind of how the tournament led up for the league up to this point.
Yeah, well, for Arizona, they were, picked to finish fourth to begin the season in the Big 12, and here they are, one of the teams in the Final Four. As far as the rest of the Big 12 goes, to me, this is a season that I'll look back on as in what if, right? You can start with Texas Tech and arguably the best player in the country in JT Toppin, who goes down with an ACL injury. And if you remember what he and Christian Anderson were able to do up until that point, they were the best duo in the country. They had some big wins. You look at what they had in non-conference when they beat Duke, right? Or even in conference where they beat Houston and they beat Arizona, the team that's in the Final Four. So that's a team that certainly we didn't get a chance to see at full strength, and they got ousted in the round of 32. Same thing with BYU. Without Richie Saunders, you saw how it took a toll on AJ DeBonta and the rest of his team there. And Kevin Young was trying to mix and match their lineups. It wasn't just Richie Saunders; they were injury plagued throughout the season as well. And then Houston, everything was set up for them to get back to a Final Four. Obviously playing in the regionals here in Houston, but they got beat by a dang good Illinois team that we now see is in the Final Four. And so I think if you're Brett Yormark, he certainly thought that they would have multiple teams in the Final Four representing the Big 12, the second best league in basketball, as he likes to say, right behind the NBA. But we all knew that Arizona certainly had a chance. And at the end of the day, I think as long as one team from the Big 12 brings home a title, many fans around the league, and particularly Brett Yormark, will be happy.
Well, they had Baylor and Kansas back to back in 21-22 and knocking on the door, but it would be nice to see Arizona for what they're doing too. What are your thoughts about that run that Michigan went on that truly took the heart, soul, blood, and guts out of Tennessee's basketball team yesterday?
It's the same thing like Arizona that they've been doing all year, and they're so talented, and it's almost like Arizona too. If you look at how they played in the second half of their matchup versus Purdue, to where once they get on a run, they're super hard to stop. And I actually saw a stat online that, particularly going back to Michigan, that's something that they do well, and they have an advantage of over Arizona is they shoot the ball very well from three, and particularly a little bit more from value than Arizona does. And when they make at least 37% from three, they're 18-0 on the season. And so that's something that if you're Tommy Lloyd, you have to be wary about, of the fact that Michigan can knock down shots. In addition to banging with you in the post, they have the size to match up with you as far as on the boards. And so it's strength on strength that we'll see on Saturday. But as you mentioned, man, when Michigan, just like Arizona, gets going, good luck to any team that's standing in their way.
What is your gut feeling on what happens at Kansas with Bill Self? One more year, or is he hanging it up?
One more year. One more year. I think Bill Self comes back for at least another season. I don't think that he was happy with how things played out. Of course, this season, and he had the talent, and just they weren't able to gel, the way that I think Bill Self certainly would have hoped, and they were so up and down. And he has another great recruiting class coming in. So ultimately, I think it comes down to health. I can't speak on the Hall of Famers' health and what he'll do in that regard, but knowing the type of competitor that Bill Self is, and knowing the type of team that he has, that he'll be able to coach next year as far as talent wise goes, I think Bill Self, that if health allows, he will be back.
So I feel like the ending of that UConn Duke game will be a "where were you when this happened?" potentially, and we know where you were because you mentioned it on Twitter. You were at a baby shower, and I saw you did have one follow up where you said you didn't regret your outburst at all, but I was just curious, man, what were your thoughts in that moment? How was the baby shower? And just what a crazy way to end what was otherwise kind of a mundane weekend in March Madness.
Man, let me tell you, I was so embarrassed yesterday because I was at, a baby shower, and I have my iPad propped up on a table like my 4-year-old toddler, right? Because listen, I love my family with my cousin, so I wanted to make sure I show love. We're gonna have to discuss having a baby shower, this late, in March, but once again, family is family, so I'm always be there for them, right? But I made sure I had the game on. And so at that time, they were kind of giving advice, as I'm sure you guys have been a baby shower before, parents were giving advice, to the future parents. And I go, "Oh my God, he made it." And everybody turned around like, "Is he okay?" And I'm like, "Are you guys okay? Are y'all watching this? Did you see what just happened right now?" Absolutely absurd. It's one of the greatest shots we have ever seen, in March Madness. There's only a couple that to me come to mind that might be, in the same category. But for Duke, right, to blow a lead like that, to go from 19 to have a 19-point lead and squander it away, and then the celebration afterwards for Caden Boozer to not be able to get his pass to his teammates, and the type of shot that UConn hit to walk away with that victory. And then my favorite thing was actually this morning, I missed it in the moment, was the Danny Hurley, if you want to call it a headbutt or his celebration to the ref. Should have been a technical. I'm not going to be the one to call that. And that one, if the ref let it go, I'm cool with that. But man, what a crazy game. And I've watched it a number of times because it's just such a special moment in college basketball history.
Chancellor, when Baylor lost to Duke in Houston in the Elite Eight in 2010, here in Waco, the night before, one of my buddies who worked for Baylor at the time was having his wedding shower that next day. And we were at the bar the night before, and he looks to me and he goes, "Well, I'm just glad that you're going to be there, right?" And I was like, "No, I got credentialed. I'm leaving in the morning. I'm going to go down there." Sorry, buddy. And I have never disappointed a friend more than I did in that moment. And I absolutely did not care because it was a ridiculous game that's still controversial to this day. But man, like, what are you going to do? Sometimes you just got to, you got to go to the game or you got to watch the game.
Especially moments like this, right? And as you mentioned, that'll be a moment that you will never forget, being able to check that game out. But shame on our family and friends for planning special events and putting us in a bind to where we have to choose. But if you can try to do both, I try to, but I have no regrets for being able to watch it right there on the spot.
Chancellor, we saw 3 of the 4 games that were pretty lopsided, and then you had the incredible finish that was lopsided for the longest of time. What are your thoughts about this? Why don't they just leave this tournament alone? They have the first 4 in or the first play-in games on Tuesday and Wednesday, and it seemed like it worked pretty well. If they add, it's going to just be more Power 4 teams added to that whatever number it's going to be. What are your thoughts as a guy that loves this game?
Absolutely. To me, I think you should leave it alone. The NCAA should, right? Especially when you look at even this season. Look at the teams that were available. The bubble wasn't that great. And you look back, towards the end of the regular season, and as we got closer to March and Selection Sunday, and the teams that were on the bubble, the teams that were first 4 in and first 4 out or whatever, they weren't taking advantage of opportunities. And so, when it comes down to the NCAA tournament, you want to put the best of the best. And that's why we love, the tournament each year in and year out, because, we see great basketball. And so, even this NCAA tournament in particular, we have seen some blowouts, but we've also seen some crazy great moments. And I think that the NCAA should just leave it as it is, because in moments like what we saw, even yesterday, when it's at its best, there's not many sporting events, if any at all, that can compare.
So, Chancellor, before we let you go, man, what are you feeling about this next round? How are you feeling about these 2 matchups? Who do you think we're watching on Monday night? Because I doubt we'll talk to you again before then. Who's raising the trophy at the end of this thing?
For weeks now, I've been saying that it's Arizona, and what how they play throughout this tournament and the level of consistency. I'm not changing that. Now, I will say that Saturday is going to be a war, and it's interesting because Michigan just matches up so well to Arizona, as I mentioned, the size, the talent, and if we're being real, Yaxel Lindenberg is going to be the best player on the floor, so they have that that type of X factor as well. But from what I've seen from Arizona, and I ran through their resume, at the beginning of our conversation, and I'm going to stick with it. They've been great in the clutch. They have the experience, and the leadership from the Jaden Bradleys, the Toby Awakas, and they have the talent to match. I think they get past Michigan and what's going to be a fantastic game on Saturday. And then look, Illinois and UConn, 2 teams that are also worthy of national championship. I still have Arizona taking it all the way. And once again, this is coming from a Sun Devil. It pains me to say that, and I can't wait for the season to be over with, so I have to keep praising Arizona because it's not in my nature. But one thing I'm not is a hater, and this has been a dang good team all season long. And if I'm being honest, I've enjoyed covering the run. I hope the Wildcats make a Sun Devil right.
Well, yeah, it would be, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it would be great. Chancellor, thank you, buddy. It's great to have you on when we've had you during the season. Enjoy the rest of the week, the weekend, and also the championship game Monday. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. Chancellor Johnson, Big 12 analyst, basketball analyst. And how about a Sun Devil wanting Arizona to finish out on top?
Yeah, I don't know that that'll fly with some of his loved ones and fellow Sun Devils, but that's good on him to not let that stop him from saying how he feels. And he's done a great job this season of just putting out videos that are of interest. I don't know how much you guys have seen some of those, like one-on-one in the locker rooms that he does. And it's been a nice little change up to just the reporting, I think, on the league that he's provided. And so I commend him on getting out there and being super active and just going and getting some or a lot of that. However, he's set all that up. He's provided really unique insights at times, being able to sit down to talk to Burries about like how did you get this rebound in this moment or whatever with the iPad kind of discussion. So that's been really unique to this run and watching him here over the course of the season. I've really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed the couple times now he's been on the show. He does a good job, and always good to have another fresh voice talking about this stuff that we all love as much as sometimes it can irritate us to no end. Why does it irritate us? Because we love it, right? We want it to be awesome and great, and sometimes it's like mind-numbingly stupid. But March, even with its lack of drama this weekend, delivered in the last possible seconds, literally. And man, it sets up a really incredible Final Four.
It really, really does. And just thank goodness that game was what it was. Not, Duke obviously not happy because of how it helped.
Yeah, I want to go back to something Paul said earlier.
An adrenaline rush into whatever the 3 games prior to that were like.
I didn't really touch on it, but I didn't feel sorry for Duke. Look, nothing against them. I'm not like a Duke hater, but they've had their fair share of beneficial calls over the years, their fair share of big dramatic wins at the end. and it was just their turn to be on the other side of it on that particular night. So I wasn't like, yay, Dan Hurley wins again. Yes, I definitely wasn't that guy, especially not after 24 hours later seeing the officiating headbutt video, or not headbutt, but the head bump video. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that are like, can both teams lose, that whole sort of thing? And if so, you can't do that. Like, just make it as dramatic as possible. And the basketball guys are like, all right, not everybody's going to be happy either way, but we can at least give you one hell of a finish and make you all happy with that.
Yeah, it's hard to be excited for Kim Mankey. That's Dan Hurley. I mean, he is male Mulkey all the way. They have
he's similar.
Yeah, they're very similar. I mean, maybe he doesn't have quite the fashion sense, but man, you put some frills on that guy's jacket.
I don't know what he. Well,
you want to bring that up? You want to talk about that?
Well, I mean, we can, but I was sitting there thinking, like, well, he wouldn't initiate a radio interview to basically do a quasi job interview.
Yep.
Here's what
while still employed at UConn, just because Gino Auriemma got his way on an arena. Would he do that?
No, he would not do that. Now, I do know another thing.
After Gino won the first national title in program history,
he praised Gino and Jim Calhoun.
Yeah,
in that post game.
I do know this, that when and if one of his players, gets thrown in a Russian gulag, he will express actual human sympathy and empathy for them.
Can you tell that Paul and Mulkey are best buds?
So,
I said, can you tell that Paul and Mulkey are best buds?
Well, okay, here we're going to bring this up. And we have a few minutes here before we get to Scott Mitchell at 5. So LSU today introduced Will
Wade.
What's his name? Yeah, Wade. There for 1 year at NC State. He said
there went your your little trivia thing.
Your little credit
your
from
little
earlier.
Trivia fact on Keywan Lacey earlier. You just lost it.
Yeah, you're back at 0.
You canceled it out 0.
Will, what's his name? The guy that we were all talking about every day last week?
Hey, Rez, put the camera on me for a second. Will Wade, I tried to forget him out of my mind, but he was introduced today. I was told, and I was wondering because on Thursday, Queen Latifah was asked about Will Wade being hired by LSU, and she stopped, and it's always churning, and mentioned, I think I'm just going to keep the focus on my basketball team right now. And again, they're about to go into the regional. Paul put up on Twitter that he understands fluent Mulkey. What was she saying, Paul?
She was saying that if he takes away any attention from my team, I am not going to be pleasant to be around.
And for those that don't know, this is all speaking from experience, having covered her for several years at Baylor. So this isn't like just some random person that nobody here knows whatsoever. I know her the least. I have nothing but good things to say. She's always very nice to me, but I also was very vocal when she was leaving of like, don't expect me to stand at the door and be like, no, you can't leave. But like, I was at that point in time post-COVID and all that. I was like, if you want to leave, just leave. Like, I understand what it means. But what I had a problem with what she said on that particular part, and we could tell the rest of the story, is I saw a lot of her sycophants come to her defense, and then some LSU fans who are all like, well, yeah, she's saying the right things. Like, there's nothing that she could say, and they've got a game they got to prepare for. And while that is absolutely true that she had a game to prepare for, that was not going to take away from the preparation or the focus to just be like, well, good luck to him, and I hope he does well. I really missed who was the previous coach?
Matt McMahon.
I was friends with Matt McMahon. I hated to see him go. I wish it would have worked out better, but I'm Team LSU, so Will, like, you need anything, I'm here. That's all she had to say. It wasn't taking away from the focus of her team that she said something in the press conference. It was cover. It was running cover for her.
Yeah.
Because she said something that you could take as, she's not that happy.
I do know this, that the reporter who asked that question absolutely knew that he was either going to get that answer or the one she gave, but he still has to ask. I mean, everyone, like, it's not a secret around Baton Rouge that the two of them did not get along. It's not like Will Wade and Kim Mulkey.
Yeah, but she did make a comment. Jacques Doucette had this on that Will Wade was there when she arrived in Baton Rouge. I saw that. I couldn't check that with Mike Scarborough, but
and
it doesn't even matter that it was Will Wade. It's a new basketball coach. You ask the other coaches what they think about the new basketball coach.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it was still football season, they hired Will Wade, they would ask Lane Kiffin.
Do you think somebody asked her about Lane Kiffin getting hired?
Exactly.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah. So all of that being said, my relationship with Kim was always pretty good. We had our tete-a-tetes, but there are things that she did that I've never seen any other coach that I've ever been around do. There were loyalty tests for the local media on when the men's team started to get good and you have a limited budget and the men are playing in Oklahoma City and you guys are playing in Spokane. Well, maybe only one of the TV stations can send somebody there. So everybody else, because they've got to fly to Spokane, not an easy place to get to, by the way, or you can just drive to Oklahoma City from here and cover that, which is garnering more interest than you right now. That's what they're going to do. But she would have all these loyalty tests. She would call you up and tell you what you should have been talking about on your show. It was all these
She was a control freak.
She was a control freak. And so that's all well and good, but she needs to, there's nothing that Will Wade is going to do or take away from her. There's nothing. There's nothing. I mean, maybe a little bit of money
that he's going to take away
a little
from her.
money, but it's not going to affect
pecking order.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because men's basketball right now, in the pecking order at LSU, we have football, baseball, and then probably now women's
basketball is going to be number 2.
But
exactly.
But that's the pecking order in everybody's own mind. She's going to have plenty of resources. She's still going to be able to go out and get the best players. There's not much that's going to change. Will Wade coming there doesn't mean that she's not going to get the next Angel Reese. That does not mean that at all, in any way, shape, or form, unless Will Wade somehow gets her budget down to like $80 a year.
It's not about the resources, Paul.
It's okay. So it's not about the resources. It's about the perception of being in charge or over this athletic department, which again, there's 2 other coaches in all of women's college basketball that are on the same level as you or better than you. Worry about that.
Yeah,
It's
one of them's
Don
going to his
Staley
25th Final Four.
It's Don Staley and Gino Ariema.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about like, am I 3rd or 4th at LSU? Guess what? Some schools, you're 10th.
You got great attendance. You got great NIL. You got great support, but your AD is gone. Yeah. And I think there's maybe a little bit of that. And how about the retirement thing floated out Friday before they lost to Duke at a shocker?
That's also happened before.
I wonder, just me, if that was an expectation to win that game, play on Sunday or today, and it didn't happen. And then all of a sudden, the loss to Duke, the shocking loss to Duke was about this story about she might be retiring. It deflected off the loss.
I don't know. And like, that's where I think I probably have a nice perspective versus you guys, because I do think it was professional, but also personal in some ways. Whereas I stayed away from any personal attachment whatsoever, either way. I just kept my distance, and she treated me okay. And I will thank her for that if I ever see her again. Whereas y'all had a little bit more in-depth experiences. So for me, like we didn't even, you just mentioned it there at the end, but all this talk and they turn around and they lose to Duke on another last second shot. That was a big, deep 3 that goes in and swirls around the cup 2 or 3 times before it falls. And that was the end of the Flau'jae Johnson era and this particular era of LSU women's basketball. So yeah, for that to occur right after that, it was just like, man, the timing, if she just goes and keeps winning, then all eyes are on her and it's still about LSU women's basketball. But the fact they turned right around and lost, especially after you had people saying, oh, well, she didn't want to give a real answer on, or a more in-depth answer on Will Wade because she had to stay focused, which is bullcrap. But let's not forget too, and I'm not trying to drill down on her at all, but this was the woman who, after the hiring was announced, was on camera with the student reporter going, oh, there's Will Wade's favorite reporters in the hallway at the arena.
A little jab.
That was totally unnecessary. And so that's what got the ball rolling. And then you do your press conference and then you don't want to talk about it. And then it's like, so it's just.
It could have been, it also could have been like just being a smartass, but there's a message there.
No, that's what I'm saying. So like, it wasn't like he was out of nowhere. It's like she made that comment to that reporter in the tunnel, and then kind of got the ball rolling and then said, we got to focus. And then they were so focused, they turned right around and lost to Duke on a last second shot. But then, yes, there were the retirement rumors that I guess were going around. And look, I wouldn't doubt for a second if there was some part of her that maybe had a conversation and they talked retirement. And if I win the Natty this year, I'm out of here type of a thing. I don't know. I couldn't say one way or the other, but I do know that there are a lot of people that just make up crap now. And because you get rewarded by the algorithm for just simply getting attention no matter how you get it. There is a lot of BS that's floating around, and I wouldn't be too happy if I'm a coach trying to recruit who's got people floating my retirement out there every single year. So
there's a plan.
She has a reason to get defensive about that. I'm glad that she cleared the air on that because she made it very clear. She is not retiring. She is going to be back at LSU, and she's going to be there for the long haul. So if there is something between her and Will Wade, they're going to have to work that out, or they're going to have to do the cold shoulder treatment, I guess, when they cross paths on campus. It won't be her first time, maybe not getting along with everybody, or maybe the time away made them better bedfellows. I don't know, but she's not retiring. That was another fascinating loss over the weekend, and we'll see how it goes.
Lane Kiffin was not at the Will Wade introductory press conference. He had practice today. Jay Johnson, the baseball coach, was there. Kim Mulkey was not there. Maybe she was out recruiting or doing something else.
Lane was on TikTok with the Cavender twins or something, right?
Scott Mitchell, Utah football analyst, former NFL quarterback. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco, state-of-the-art imaging machine, and $497 or less every single time when you get an MRI. Your doctor contacts Ideal, said, I need so-and-so to get an MRI on their shoulder or their back or maybe the knee. And Ideal MRI will get in touch with the patient, get in touch with the customer, and get set up for an appointment. When I've left there on 4 different occasions when I've been inside the MRI imaging machine, I've been given a CD, a disc of the images, and also told that the images were in the portal for my doctor to be able to look at and then decide, is there another way to go about the diagnosis? Ideal MRI with Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners, $497 or less when the average MRI is $1,100. Inside the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco. Have you heard of the new IRA Insured Retirement Advantage? The Insured Retirement Advantage is a solution for younger, high-income clients and small business owners who want to save money for retirement, and is a strategy designed to provide the opportunity for guaranteed tax-free income, retirement income, legacy protection, and capital efficiency, all without needing ultra-high net worth status to qualify. Call 623-256-6902 or go to NorthstarFundingPartners.com and tell them 365 Sports sent you. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
At Allen Samuels Dodge in Waco, we're making a declaration of deals. And these deals are so big, even fans of the Dallas Cowboys think this might finally be the year. Drive home a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo for just $32,990, or a new Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 for $29,990. Take $11,000 off a new Jeep Gladiator Sport, or choose 0% for 60 months. Or we pay your sales tax. Right now, no payments for 90 days. Happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
One of the members of the LSU coaching staff saying that she was, and the staff was there at the Will Wade introductory press conference earlier today. Scott Mitchell, former Utah Star NFL quarterback, Utah football analyst, joins us and podcaster on 365 Sports. Scott, thank you very much for your time. How has the transition, in your opinion, been from Kyle Whittingham for so many years to Morgan Scalley this spring?
You know, it's kind of one of those, it's the best of times and it's the worst of times thing. It was just really weird how Kyle left, and now a lot of information has come out to some of the details behind the scenes. And it was certainly an awkward situation. I think as we found out all of the details of everything, but then it's like everyone moves on and life goes on. And I'm just really excited about what's happening with Morgan. I've been extremely impressed with his decisiveness about how he wanted to move forward. There's been a lot of talk about his preparation for this. You know, he just didn't all of a sudden, hey, you're the head coach, now go be a head coach. It's like he's been planning and preparing for this. The people that he picked and as coaches in the direction that he wanted to go, I think it's just been an incredible thing. He hasn't blinked at all. He's a guy that I think is, if there's anyone who's invested in Utah football, I don't know you're going to find someone better than Morgan Scalley. I don't know you're going to find anyone better prepared than Morgan and committed to the program. But the one thing he said to me, or not to me, just he said that really got me excited. And that is that he goes, I'm here to win a national championship. And he says, and I said it. And no one dares to say that. No one, well, we want to, hopefully make it, get a shot to make it to the playoffs, do something. But he came out very boldly and he just said, that's where I'm going with this. And he said it publicly. And that just got me excited. And I think it's that attitude of raising the expectation. And that's been something that's been going on at Utah for decades now. It's about moving out of the WAC and the Mountain West and going undefeated and all of a sudden getting in the Pac-12 and then going to the Rose Bowl and now, in the Big 12 and the chance to really get into the playoffs and really have a chance at a national championship. That's been the expectation. And I'm just so happy that someone finally said it publicly.
Scott, this is a team that did lose a couple dudes that were really good that went to Michigan. They lost those guys, but they retained not only Devin Dampier, but also Bird Ficklin at quarterback, a position very, very well. How key was that in this era where even quarterbacks who haven't proved much have more value than they normally would on an open market, that Utah can bring back those guys and start building their offensive scheme around the different things that they can do?
Well, I'll tell you, the one challenge Utah's had that's really hurt the team the last few years is the quarterback getting injured. Cam Rising for 2 years just put the program in, just agony that, had he played, it would have been a much different outcome for the program. And so to have two high quality players at the quarterback position is probably unheard of in college football for the most part. There might be a few places that's the case. I'm not sure that Bird Ficklin at the end of the day isn't better than Devin Dampier. I think he's got a more complete game. And I love Bird Ficklin a lot. And I love Devin as well. It'll be interesting to see how Devin and really both of them kind of evolve into this new offense. Devin's kind of, he's cut his teeth with Jason Beck and now he's got a new system and because that was his advantage a year ago is he knew everything and this year he doesn't. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I've always been someone who said, look, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback, right? And I don't think this is the case. And I think with a college football and the way that it's evolved, actually having two quarterbacks is kind of a unique I don't know, tool or something where you can kind of get super creative. You can put them because they're both interchangeable in a lot of places. Both can run, they both can throw, they both can actually catch the ball, and actually having two quarterbacks in the game at the same time, which Utah did at times last year, was kind of fun and kind of out of the box and a new wrinkle that maybe this is how college football, this is the next evolution of college football, because both of those guys have a lot of explosion, and I don't think they've both even reached their full potential. So it'll be interesting to see how that works, but that's definitely one of the strongest, I think, attributes of Utah's football team this year is a quarterback position.
How well set up do you think they are to replace two tackles simultaneously who aren't just going off the graduation, but are going off to play pro football for the next several years?
Yeah, it's I think it's impossible. I don't know that they do. Utah's always had a really good offensive line, but this year it was phenomenal. And it's not just the two bookends. The other three guys weren't bad either. I mean, this is a very, very good offensive line. And it's a whole new thing. A lot of these guys that have been in the program and they've had playing time. A lot of them, there's some new faces. They got a high recruit coming in. Is he really ready to play? I mean, Spencer Fano, I remember coming in as a freshman and he had no problem playing. And so if you get a guy that's really good, you can have that, but it's certainly going to be a work in progress. Jordan Gross is a great player at Utah, great player in the pros, and kind of getting his feet wet as a coach. And that's a tough position to do it at as a line coach. And there's going to be a lot of expectation there. And a lot of, there's going to be some growing pains for sure with that. But what you do have is you've got these quarterbacks that kind of, they're the equalizers, right? So when you screw up at the offensive line, they can fix a lot of the problems. They're the plumber that comes in and fixes up all the mess. And so that can kind of counteract the time where you're kind of going through those growing pains. And I think it's something that you can maybe work around early on. I mean, eventually you got to get it all together, but these quarterbacks certainly have the ability to kind of fix some problems.
Scott, as a guy who played the position, how much can you carry over the end of the year hot streak like Dampier to the next year, or does time eventually that just disappears?
No, it's a really good question, and I know a lot of teams really try to use that end of the year as kind of that motivation is that kind of, this is our anchoring point for next season. It's our battle cry. It's where we draw the line in the sand and we grow and we go from this. And you see a lot of teams that, and I'm a big believer in it. And I'm a big believer in, cause you're never satisfied. And I think this team wanted to make a statement with Coach Whittingham leaving and this is now Morgan Scalley's time. And I think they wanted to make, in the bowl game, they want to make a statement. They want to say, hey, we're here, we're moving forward, we're not going anywhere. And I'm sure Morgan, that it was probably a great thing for him to get that first game out of his system last year. So he goes into next year and it's not like totally new, but yeah, I think it's and two for Devin. I think he's a guy that, a lot of people go, I can't throw the ball very well. And that's true. I mean, throwing the football is not his strong suit. Throwing the football on the run is, but like sitting in the pocket. And he did a lot more of that in the bowl game. And I think it was kind of, hey, I've got an arm too. I'm not just all about my legs. And I think he was trying to make that statement a little bit. And I think he wants to do more of that moving forward. But I really feel like there's a lot of guys in this program at Utah that have bought into it. And Ficklin could have left. A lot of guys could have left, but there's a lot of guys that love being there, love what Morgan's about, love the culture that they're continuing to harness and develop and kind of give it the Morgan Scalley spice to it. But a lot of guys love playing at Utah.
Do you think that because Morgan Scalley is a defensive guy that like losing someone like John Henry Daly just stinks, like nobody wants to lose him, but that he will be able to overcome it better than most?
Well, so I was kind of mad at Kyle about this because I'm like, you're going to Michigan, right? You can get anybody. You can go get anyone in the country. Like his coaches they don't coach like or recruit like they recruit at Utah. They recruit the country. They recruit by position. It's like who's the best offensive line. That's who we're going after. Who's the best even. That's how Michigan recruits. It's not, hey, we've got our areas and we're kicking the tires and we're beating the bushes for players. And it's like, why do you have to take the guys from you? I never thought he would take anyone. And then I was like, and then someone asked me, well, who do you think he would take if he did? And I said, well, he'd probably take John Henry, probably take Smith Snow, and he'd probably take Jay Buchanan. And it was like it was kind of the list of lists there. And that's going to be hard to replace. I mean, we have to be candid and brutal about this. Those guys, lots of production. J.J. Buchanan offensively, man, he's a special talent. But I wish I had a team full of John Henry Dailies. Now Utah does have a lot of depth at the defensive end position. And this is why. And it's a lot about Morgan. It's not about Morgan per se. It's about the process. They learned how to recruit players that fit their style. And they did it masterfully for years, and they continue to do it. I mean, last year, Morgan goes, why are you guys questioning whether we're going to be any good or not? Like, we've been doing this for 20 some years now, and we know the parts that fit into our system, and we have those parts available. Now, do guys stay healthy, and do they play at their highest level? And, there's a lot of things that go into it, but there's a lot of people in the pipeline on the defensive line that for Utah that I don't really worry about the defense so much and where it's going. The challenge is really the offense and Morgan, I think, has a little bit. Kyle was kind of had this reputation as he had his thumb on the offense, and that really wasn't the case. It's just they were all about building that defense. And the offense kind of was a casualty to it sometimes. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case with Morgan. I think he wants to have more balance across the board with both sides of the ball.
Scott, how awkward was the breakup, so to speak, with Kyle out? He then goes to Michigan, and then there's that Mark Harlan letter, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I know there was some assistance that followed, which is going to happen. And what has his reputation or his legacy at Utah changed at all?
I think at the end of the day, no. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are upset about it right now at both sides, at the university, at Coach Whittingham. I think it was just the most unfortunate timing that could possibly happen. The Michigan job just doesn't normally open at that time of the year in that situation, in that small of a window. And I don't even think it was so much that the job opened up. It was that there were a lot of people that turned it down. There were a lot of names of people. And so they almost were in a desperate situation. They go, wait a minute. Hey, Kyle Whittingham, he's pretty darn good. And he's available. We don't know why he's available, but he's available. And I think had that not happened, I don't think that none of this would have been a discussion. And I'm not sure that Kyle even coaches anymore. He probably sits out for a couple of years and just look, I've got enough, and they're paying him $13 million this year. I'm sure that would be easy to at least take a season off for $13 million. And he's said this multiple times. He doesn't want to be a guy that coaches forever. He doesn't want to be like his dad. He doesn't want to be like Lavelle, and they coach until they die. And so there is a shelf life with Kyle. But when that opportunity came up at Michigan, I think you're a fool. I think anyone in the world's a fool. I personally told Kyle, I says, you have to do this. I don't care if you fail. It's like, you have to go coach at Michigan. And I think that was the lure for all the coaches he took there. They're like, we got to, when does a job like this come open? And I think the same thing with these players. And so it's just an unfortunate situation. I think would have been a very quiet, calm thing. It would have been a nice, easy transition, but all of a sudden, lo and behold, Michigan, comes along, and that's just unfortunate, or fortunate, however you want to look at it.
Scott, thank you. Appreciate it. I think he's a great fit at Michigan. He was a great fit, obviously, at Utah, but it seems like he'll be a great fit with the Wolverines and their style of play.
Yeah, no question.
Hey, good to have you. Appreciate you being a part of what we do as well at Rogue Media.
I love it. I'm always happy to come on. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Scott Mitchell with us, analyst for Utah football, former NFL quarterback and Utah quarterback on 365 Sports.
Well, I think in the bowl season, if you are somebody who has the chance to put Utah and Michigan together and you don't take it, you are an absolute moron and should lose your job as far as organizer of most interesting bowl game that's not a playoff game, unless one of those teams makes it in there. And hey, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Kyle Whittingham and Michigan got there. I am fascinated to see Kyle Whittingham as Michigan head coach, given the just sort of goofiness that has surrounded their head coaching position for the last several years between Harbaugh's various, just what he's involved or not involved in or knows or doesn't know, or Spygate and all this other stuff. And then clearly his successor wasn't cut out for the job. So to have a guy like Kyle Whittingham, who you know is not going to embarrass the hell out of you, is a nice change of pace for Michigan. And he did take some really good players with him. And Utah's a team that I see in the preseason, people are like, Morgan Scalley's going to grab the bull by the horns, and they've got the quarterbacks coming back. But they have, outside of like Wayshawn Parker, who is there offensively? Because they didn't have guys last year.
Yeah. That's
why Smith Snow was playing both ways. Like they had some like Down Bentley and who was the JJ Buchanan, the other tight end that he went to Michigan though. He's gone to Michigan. So, like, I felt like they had sort of a shortage of playmakers last year outside of quarterback. But when your quarterbacks were Bird, Ficklin, and Devin Dampier, like, they kind of took care of most of the business. But I do wonder about that. But I think that Parker and Ficklin and Dampier could be really nasty in the backfield. How well can Ficklin throw the ball on a consistent basis, or will he have to? Will it be more like last year, where he's mostly throwing a pass here and there, and he's coming in as your big time running threat? He was nasty last year when he came in spot duty. So they'll be great at quarterback. I think they'll be good in the backfield, but I do wonder about just the depth of the weaponry, especially when you did have guys like a Buchanan, for example, that did follow Whittingham, and defensively have less concerns, but offensively as well. Like I asked him, you didn't just lose a couple offensive tackles. You lost your starting offensive tackles, and one of those guys is definitely getting drafted in the first round. And
the other one's probably going to the second.
The other one's probably going in the second. So you're not just losing. I'm not asking about losing OTs in general. Losing top 2-round draft pick offensive tackles at left and right spots is going to be a bit of a challenge. So they definitely have some questions, but I do get excited about the possibilities of just a new coat of freshness that comes with the changeover at head coach.
Jaquindon Jackson, remember him?
Yeah.
He went to Texas initially, great player, was a quarterback, and then they put him at running back. And I wonder if they'll do that much.
He's not at Utah anymore.
That's an example of
Bird
now,
Ficklin or something.
Yeah, it wasn't Scally. It was
Whittingham. Jackson's in the NFL.
I know. Using him as an example, he was a quarterback, and they were like, they're okay there, and so the guy that was there, Cam Rising, and Jaquindon Jackson had like an 800-yard rushing yards year. I bring him up because Utah's had to kind of flip that around before.
They've done that before. To go back to Jim Harbaugh and Sharon Moore for a second, I thank God that every day that Jim Harbaugh is a football coach, not because he's a really good football coach, is that I don't know what walk of life he would have wandered into if that wasn't his calling.
I could have seen him doing any number of things.
But he's weird enough to where if it was the wrong thing, it would be not.
No, if
good
he was
for
like
anybody.
a venture capitalist, we'd be in a lot of trouble because he'd be
yeah.
with the other billionaires, like trying to figure out how they could tear it down as quickly as possible.
I worry.
He's got a degree in College of Literature, Science, and Arts.
Yeah, I could see him being a professor,
Yeah.
like college professor. I could see him doing any number. I could see him being a clown at the circus, because it just entertains him. He's just a very eccentric guy.
Yes, he's very eccentric. Kyle Whittingham, if he wasn't a football coach, he would just be a really good at whatever he was doing. Like you wouldn't have to worry about
if he wasn't a college football coach, he'd be a high school football coach.
Yeah. You wouldn't worry like what kind of crazy crap is he going to say or do or think or whatever. You just be like, I went down and got my loan from Kyle Whittingham at the bank. No nonsense guy.
He would be a guy at the construction site with that helmet on. Like
he'd be leading something. He'd be a definite leader. I liked him, and I know that he was wearing out his welcome just because they were ready to move on to Scally and had made that very clear. I know that it wore him down to constantly be asked about retirement questions. I vividly remember one of y'all asking him about it last year and him taking it in stride. But I remember thinking at the time, like, God, that's got to get really old.
Yeah.
of like, we haven't even started the season yet, and you're already being asked about retirement. And I know we're not the only ones that have asked you about that. And I know I've read you being asked about that elsewhere. So I can only imagine the interviews you've done where you've been asked about it that I haven't seen. And that had to be really annoying. There's no way in a million years, as much as he probably had confidence in himself, that he could ever have imagined, all right, well, what does happen if I get out of here? Well, maybe I can go call that AD I used to work for, or maybe, and then the Michigan situation happens. It's like, dude, it could not have worked out better for both sides, other than Utah, I think, is a little bit bitter that he didn't just go crawl into retirement and sit in the suite on game days to support Morgan Scalley. But beyond that, like, everybody won. Everybody won on paper.
Don't be mad that he took a job at him. Be mad that Michigan hired a guy who was not a good human being and they had to fire him.
You talking about Sharon? No.
Well, I think Kyle Whittingham's a great coach, and I think he'll do well at Michigan. I don't know about taking them to like the playoffs right away or winning national titles or anything. I don't know, but I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, he'll have more at his disposal, with all due respect to Utah, than he's ever had up to this point. Now, I don't know if it's so drastic that now he's like, oh, well, I'm unlocking all of these national titles I would have won otherwise, but they're going to be really interesting, much more interesting than they would have been with like would have been 2 or 3 with Sharon Moore. Three. Yeah, I'm much more interested in Michigan now with Whittingham at the helm than I would have been in Sharon Moore again.
If somebody would have played a game, what school would Kyle Whittingham fit more than Utah? And let's say things were fine. Michigan would have been one.
BYU.
I do think that Michigan, he's not going to do what Sharon Moore did in year one and roll out a team that clearly could have contended for the playoff once more if they would have had a quarterback, and then be like, no, we're fine. We're not gonna go get anybody. You know, we're not gonna do that. We've got Davis Warren and Alex Orgy, and that'll be fine. Neither of them have ever done anything, but we'll be fine. Like, he won't do that. Like, that's never gonna happen under him. And
I think, him and Bryce Underwood will be a little interesting pairing with Beck there, and how they can groom him to be the player that he can be, that people all hoped he would be as a 5-star. I think that's going to be a really interesting storyline to follow. And I don't think he'll be caught lacking in any way, shape, or form as far as the roster goes. And I think also, for as much as I'm sure there's a little bit of like, damn it, I wanted him to leave, but not like that. Like, I wanted to break up with him and not him like jump straight to maybe a hotter girl than me kind of a thing. But I do think it's everybody wins. Like, Utah wanted Morgan Scalley. Morgan Scalley's the guy now. There's no more, like, they've completely rid themselves of this song and dance they've had to do for the last several years between the Cam Rising injuries and then the Kyle Whittingham, the will he, won't he of Utah athletics for the last like 5 years of, will Cam Rising be healthy or will he not? Will he play or will he not? Will Whittingham retire or will he not? Will he be here next year or will he not? Like, now it's just a new era, and it's got to be really refreshing.
It's a refreshing breath of fresh air, all those words, and good luck to Morgan Scalley. Can't wait till we get him on this show. When we come back, well, it's Paul Catalina, his top 5, the wheel, quizzes, poll results, and more, and a note about Dan Hurley and the ref. This is 365 Sports.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
We're celebrating the Declaration of Deals at Allen Samuels in Waco. Right now, get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. Cash in on $11,000 off a new Ram 2500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or choose 0% for 36 months, plus no payments for 90 days. Feel secure with America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Ooh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels. We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. Now it's time for 365 Sports. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome to Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. We are talking the top 5 worst NCAA tournament blunders. And why are we doing that? Well, let's just jump right into number 5. Caden Boozer's pass against UConn just happened 24 hours ago. And it was a gut-wrenching moment for Duke fans everywhere. The reason this is a blunder was because he didn't have to do it. There were 10 seconds left on the clock, actually a little bit less than. So getting the ball across the timeline wasn't important. He just had to stand there and get fouled. If that happens, we're talking about Duke in the Final Four playing the Illini instead. UConn makes it to its 3rd Final Four in the last 4 years. And Caden Boozer's a fantastic player. I don't know if he's going to go to the NBA like his brother is in this upcoming draft, or he's going to stick around Duke. I think he's probably going to stick around Duke for another year or so. He's a fantastic player, but this will haunt him for a very, very long time. And you hate it for him because, again, just one momentary lapse in judgment. He should have let one of these two dudes foul him. He'd be at the free throw line, and we wouldn't be talking about this today. Number 4, Houston forgets to box out. This is Lorenzo Charles leading to the famous Jim Valvano moment. This is the moment that probably made modern March Madness. And all they had to do was box him out at the end of the game. Simple. Guy V. Lewis, probably woke up at night for years and years. Box out, box out, box out. But they didn't. And Lorenzo Charles burned this in to Final Four lore. I like saying things that rhyme. Number 3, Memphis can't make free throws. Bill Self's first title in 2008 came because of this. Memphis in control the entire game. Went 1 for 5 shooting free throws down the stretch, including superstar Derrick Rose. Could not get him to drop. Mario Chalmers took advantage. We have the famous moment. Boom, 3. Bill Self elevates himself onto that first tier of legend status, which has only gone up since then. Number 2, Northern Illinois' 45-second collapse versus A&M. Up by 12. By 12 with 45 seconds left. Couldn't break a press. Turnovers, fouls, three-pointers. The barrage of things that happened in 45 seconds for this game to be won by the Aggies. Probably one of their greatest, if not their greatest overall tournament moments. They were a 3 seed this year, UNI an 11 seed, about to get into the Sweet 16, and it did not happen. And this photo sums that feeling up pretty much perfectly. Numero uno, Chris Webber's timeout. Chris Webber went on to have a legendary, a wonderful NBA career. He had a wonderful career as part of the Fab Five at Michigan. But if you want to know why the Fab Five never won the title, it comes down to this moment right here. Chris Webber called a timeout that he did not have, thus leading to a Tech. North Carolina wins. Michigan still looking for that elusive title. Maybe they can wipe that away this weekend, but they got to get through Arizona first. That's going to do it for a top five. Let's spin that wheel. Okay. The wheel rapidly spinning. A multitude of chances this could land on, not just 10 or 12 like we had before. Were you ever in a school musical or play growing up? I will answer this at the end.
Why?
I was in several. I was in several, but I was more curious about the two of you.
Outside of the sort of play you would conduct in like your second grade classroom.
Were you voluntarily in one?
Hell no.
The only theater I did, I was doing the behind the scenes stuff for a semester. I was never a part of the cast or anything.
No.
Yes. I was.
You're a private school guy.
I was Catholic school guy. And my junior year, I had never given thought to the musical. And Miss Springston, who was the academic dean, calls me out of class one day and has me come down and speak to her. And I was doing well in school, so I had no idea why the academic dean would want to talk to me. And I sit down, I was like, what's going on? I was worried about, she's like, hey, I've called your mom about, your dad, you've got this, your grades aren't good all of a sudden. And I was like, because that wouldn't have been true. I was doing really well. And she said, Paul, you're going to be in Fiddler on the Roof. And I went, wait, what? I didn't even try out. And she's like, no, I need somebody to play the innkeeper. You're going to be in Fiddler on the Roof. And I was like, but that's not fair to anybody else. She goes, you let me worry about fair. You're going to show up tonight, 7:00. We got practice. You're going to take this role because the kid who did it like broke his leg or something and couldn't be in the play. So I show up and I'm like, look, I don't want to make commitments. I'm not really a theater guy. There was a girl who I was absolutely just over the moon for named Julie Kowalski that was in the play, and I didn't realize it at the time. And afterwards, she's like, so you in? I'm like, I am Reb Mordka. I will be there for you. Tradition. So I was in Fiddler on the Roof, and the reviews were Paul Catalina was there.
Nice.
Did
was
you
Kowalski
have
related
that?
to Killer Kowalski?
No. Killer Kowalski was a wrestler.
Her dad actually saved my dad's life, giving him a surgery.
Was that going to pop up for that topic no matter where it landed? You were ready to
No.
tell
I have no idea what's on the wheel. I have no idea.
A part of any play?
No, and
nor did I miss the fact that I was never a part of any play.
I will tell you, it made me appreciate musical theater in a way that I hadn't before because it's very difficult, and I'm not a singer. And so, yeah, but Fiddler on the Roof, if you were going to go to Broadway and see it's great.
Okay.
Because I will not be in it. That's another reason.
Let's get to the quizzes, please. Oh, I see. I have one name. I'm already... Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky in 3.5 days after being inspired by an underdog who went 15 rounds with Muhammad Ali. Who was that boxer?
Well, it wasn't Rocky Marciano because he was well before.
And that's who he would have based Rocky off of.
And I could be wrong, but
the boxer went 15 rounds
by
with
underdog. Okay,
Ken Norton's fights with Ali, I think, were 12 rounds. He broke his jaw right after.
It's got to be Chuck Wepner.
Wepner would be like the Cinderella underdog. You got to be kidding me. And he's a big man, too, that was hard to probably knock out. So even though it would be easy to say Frazier, who did go 15-1, it has to be. Would you
call Joe Frazier an underdog other than just who's picking who for this fight? He was the other. That would. It's Chuck Wepner. Let's go with Chuck Wepner. There we go. Known as the Bayonne Bleeder. Wepner was a massive underdog who managed to knock Ali down in the 9th round and lasted until the final seconds of the 15th round. Stallone watched the fight on closed circuit TV and went home to write the script immediately.
Yeah. Wepner had one of those faces that got bloodied pretty quickly. Remind me of Joe Bugner, who was a fighter that fought Frazier many years ago before that. But yeah, Chuck Wepner.
Okay. Next trivia question, please. Well, this is easy. Tiger Woods is famous for his signature look during the final round of every tournament. What color does he always wear on Sunday? Sunday red is the name of his company.
Actually, in honor of Tiger's most recent incident of the.
You got the Sunday red, the maroon almost.
Tiger
It's
on
more
the-
crimson. Yeah, it's the red. God, what?
It's actually just complete coincidence. I wouldn't honor something like that,
Yeah.
but timing was right.
I saw that story come out. When did that come down? Thursday or Friday?
Thursday afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tiger Sunday Red is one of sports' most iconic traditions since turning pro in 96. Tiger Woods has worn it on Sundays, part of a run that includes 82 PGA Tour wins. He started because his mom called it his power color, and after losing in blue once, he admitted Mama's always right. It later inspired his brand, Sunday Red.
Did not know about the blue and Mama getting involved.
Well, yeah, this is Sunday Red. That's his brand that he launched. You see the logo right there. So I'm not like some massive Tiger fan. This was a gift, but I like the shirt.
You know how many stripes are on that?
There's no stripes on the
No,
Tiger
in the logo. I think there's one stripe for every major championship.
or arrest.
Well, that it
We're
might
getting
be a
kinda
higher
close
number
to that at this point, are we not?
Well, it couldn't be Perkins waitresses because then you wouldn't be able to tell it was a tiger.
man,
An elephant.
You would just have to make a way bigger animal.
All right,
there.
those are we've won about 20 of the last 22.
He would look weird though in blue.
Yeah.
Just thinking about him in like bright blue or something, or any blue really, he would look kind of strange.
Yep. Okay, let's go to the polls.
He did really well with those mock.
Oh, come
All
on.
right.
God, this is
Oh,
mean.
my God.
This is so mean.
371 votes. It crushed everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, man, Andrew. Sorry, stop.
So
It was-
mean.
He looks so bad in both of them. The first one, he's zoned
The
out.
worst
The
one's
second one,
the
he's zoned
first
out, but gotten bigger because he's gotten heavier and he's got a little fat more going in his face.
The first one feels like more of a he's asking for trouble. This one feels more like he needs help.
Yeah.
The first guy looks like I didn't do anything wrong. I've only begun to defile myself, like kind of thing.
The
Whereas
first one
the
looks
second
like
one,
he may have committed more than just getting arrested for anything.
he looks like he is still very much under the influence in the first one.
Yeah.
The second one looks like I'm kind of sobering up and oh crap, this is not good. But yeah, the mugshot, the most meme worthy is definitely the first one. Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah. All right.
Hopefully
What
this
else
one
are we
is
going
as
to do
mean.
here? Okay.
Which two teams go into the title game? Arizona and UConn at 50%. The rest of the combinations rounding out 471 votes. So at least people are more concerned about the Final Four than they are about Tigers.
It's a bunch of
mugshot.
votes. Yeah. No, I'm surprised there's not more of a lean towards Michigan. Now I'm surprised Michigan's not higher with their percentages.
There's a lot of Michigan love going around right now. I'm sticking with Zona just because that was my pick from the get-go, but kind of leaning Arizona, Illinois a little bit. Illinois just seems like a team that's just playing really well at the right time and
shouting all those European things on the court makes it really confusing.
Hey, the itches, as I call them.
Yeah.
I mean, Sitch and Bitch, and they.
It's great to see Peja
Right.
over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, we are getting our fill of Peja. I will always be grateful to Peja Stojakovic because he helped the Mavericks win their first and only NBA championship with he was a really valuable pickup for them and a key 3-point guy just in random moments along that run that was just like chef's kiss perfect addition. So I'll always be a Peja fan for that reason. But Arizona, UConn, that's the runaway winner right there. I'd be all for any of these four, although I'd be least for Michigan, Illinois. I don't want to see Big Ten team versus Big Ten team for the title. I would rather see something with conference one way or the other kind of riding on it. Not like no matter what the Big Ten wins, I feel like that would be kind of boring for the average viewer who's not locked into one of those two teams.
I tell you what, Craig, the Big Ten stepped up. I mean, they haven't won everything, but my God, have they stepped up with what they've done in football and now with the chance to win it in basketball?
Well, at this point, I mean, if they win it in basketball, then they are the top conference, if not already. I mean, I think some people consider them that because, well, they've won 3 straight football titles with 3 different teams, including one that was completely improbable and never, ever would any of us, even the most diehard Indiana alumni, ever have guessed that would have happened. So not only did your 2 big dogs win it, as you expect, but then another complete new booty that you never would have thought would be in the mix. That was actually your example of like Michigan and Ohio State don't need to pay for Indiana to just hang around. And now Indiana's like, we're actually joining that party. And so, yeah, between that and possibility of maybe having the whole national title game to yourself and a guaranteed champion. Yeah, they're running the show right now for sure.
They are.
Yeah.
All right. The Dan Hurley rubbing his forehead up against Roger Ailes. No, that's a political guy.
That's a Fox News guy or something, right?
This is the funny part. They're showing the video. Dan Hurley returned to his factory settings just seconds after the Mullins shot, like he was.
Well,
Terry McCauley said, under no circumstances, former NFL ref, should behavior like this go unpenalized, regardless of the sport or the situation. Disappointed they didn't call a technical foul.
I saw some questioning of that, and I think there was another call this weekend that people were like, well, what about and it was like, come on, dude. But that one, yeah, I almost think you kind of have to explain yourself for why you didn't call the technical there, because, dude, I totally get it's in the moment, and his personality is not being aggressive, even though that is aggressive, but it's like positively. But, dude, you don't make contact with officials
Dan
and do all
Hurley?
that.
No, Dan Hurley's a
I'm saying
jackass.
in that moment, he was aggressively happy.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, like, you just don't do that. So, yeah, they would have had every right to call that there. And I think they probably should have, because now the precedent's been set. So, yeah.
The video and others respond. First of all, some of them telling McCauley to shut up, but that
I wonder who they root for.
Hurley was there. It would have been a block or a charge guy, but Hurley was there, and he did like walk into Hurley. Look at the video. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right.
You love Dan Hurley, which is not a surprise.
Well, because I'm psycho too. But
yeah,
as a diehard Duke fan, please God, don't ever give us a game on a technical foul with 0.3.
No, that would have been
seconds
awful. So I'm glad that they didn't do that. But I mean, he was asking for it. I mean, certainly, and he couldn't have been like, "Oh, well, why did you call that?" It would have been like, "Well, you kind of forced our hand there." But I'm, in hindsight, glad that they didn't. Luckily, we avoided some big catastrophe ruining the end of that game, and just let it be the classic finish that it was.
He was walking towards Hurley, but Hurley, also taller than him, had to bend down and put his head on him. So let's not absolve him of every sin just because, we're part of the pro jackass lobby.
Happy birthday to the Tyler Rose Earl Campbell today. One of the great ones, if not the greatest of all time. Thank you, Paul and Craig. Thanks to Rez and also Garrett Ross and Andrew Valade for what they do. Our sponsors, thank you for anyone that gives us access of your time every day with however much time it might be. Back tomorrow at 3. Have a great night. This is 365 Sports.